What's up, everyone? Welcome to Normal America Show. I'm your host, Kanye West. Oh, wait, no. I'm not Kanye. I'm actually your host, robnoerr. Great to be here. I got a trim. I feel great. Looking good. I mean, damn. How can anyone resist? I already had the most entertaining, informative show, but now with the most trimmed up host. Oh my goodness. It's pretty cool. I went to the barber shop I normally go to. I don't have a specific person. What's up, Aftershock? That cuts my hair, but I go to a specific place, and it's just in the little town where I live, and it's cool because I take a lot of the people I work with there. So, and the woman that cut my hair today, I had never met before, but the other women that were in there knew me. And the woman that was cutting my hair was dead. She had her 4-year-old daughter with her because her babysitter's furnace blew up. And so they had to not be in the house. So her daughter had to come with her to work. And I was very close. I was just joking, but I almost let this happen. Because I was like, oh, which one of you two are going to cut my hair? And this little girl was like, I'll cut your hair. And I was like, have at her. You know, I was like, yeah, as long as your mom shaves it when it's done. And her mom's like, are you for real? I don't think this is a good idea. My wife would have been furious if I came back completely bald. Like, well, this 4-year-old girl was bored. It was take your daughter to work day. And I was like, yeah, why'd your mom get to have all the fun? You can cut my hair if you want. But it was cool. She was fun. It's one of the things with my son Hank being an only child, which I don't know if we'll ever have more kids, neither here nor there. But right now, I'm me and my wife are actively like, we got to make sure he's interacting with other kids. So you're looking at like different things in the area where they can interact with kids. There's swimming lessons that we're going to do here. I was just talking to this woman cutting her hair because her daughter's 2 years older than Hank. And she was like, oh, for the girls, they have dance classes, but there's all sorts of things. There's, like hiking for young kids that, where they have a little group that like goes on little trails or does playgrounds that are in the area. And the YMCA does different events and like soccer and stuff. So yeah, it'll be good. Yeah, the guest tonight, thanks to Aftershock setting up the program, is going to be a friend of mine, John Burk, which will be cool. First off, John's probably going to yell at me because I've kind of screwed him over in the past couple of weeks, which I'll get to in a minute. John Burk will be joining me at 9:30. It'll be an hour and a half interview, so should be good. For those that don't know John, very interesting guy. Has a pretty big YouTube channel. He's conservative, is a veteran, owns at least one company. I believe he owns 2 companies, Shell Shock CBD, and I think he has another company where they make tankards and things like that. Pretty successful podcast. All around interesting guy. Like he's hosted some TV shows. Really, it's someone that if you follow him, one of the things I want to talk to him about tonight is I don't know where he gets the time to do everything he does. He'll put like pictures up of him and his girlfriend or his wife like doing ballroom dancing. And then he'll have videos up of him like shooting expositions and stuff. And it's like, where do you get the time, man? I just don't know. But yeah, John's a cool guy. And he's doing a podcast now that's audio, and it's every weekday at noon Eastern time, I believe. And he asked me like 3-4 weeks ago to be a guest, which I agreed to. But that was when I was having licensing at my work. And so I was like, John, I can't do it this week. I'm there like 24/7. And then the next week over Thanksgiving, we were both busy. And then the week following that, he was busy. So I think I told him I would maybe I'll end up doing his show tomorrow. Though I got a little dad Hank time alone tomorrow because my wife's going out with her mom and her sister, and they're going to like Michael's and crafting stores to buy stuff for crafts for Christmas. Which means I'll be hanging Christmas decorations here this weekend. But no, it's cool. Yeah, I know, Flim Talk. I assume that's what everyone would want to talk about tonight. I happened to check on Twitch what all the lefty streamers were streaming about tonight. And I got to give it to I'm Really Important. Say what you will about him, and I say a lot, because he has told me that he likes to stay in his bubble. But he covers politics. He does. And at least the title of his stream tonight, he's covering the railway strike and the legislation to prevent the strike. Everyone else, Hassan, Dylan, and, whoever else is like, Kanye. We're covering Kanye. Won't cover Biden. Not going to cover that, are they? They don't do so well with that. What do you think, Aircraft? The Kanye stuff's being mishandled. How do you... Yeah, see, Naira, that's what I was saying. For every 1 sub I lose for having a clean cut beard, I'll gain 10. Do it. What people saw today was a performance. Maybe. I don't know. I don't really give a shit. Part of me thinks, and I've thought this for a while, that Kanye... Is he an Andy Kaufman-esque troll? It's just like he gets laughs out of it. Is he someone who's seriously a lefty that's like, I'm going to play this character long enough so that I can make people on the right look bad? Is he delusional? Is he none of the above? He's just seriously portraying who he actually is? Is he someone who's being drugged or something as he's implied? I don't know or care. That's kind of how I feel. I don't care. And I'm not going to speculate, Aircraft. So what do? You just go on a gut feeling. On Tim Pool, he was serious. On Alex Jones, he was not. On Tucker Carlson, he was serious. Like, yeah, well, I mean, I'll talk about it a little because I thought we were starting at 9, but we're starting at 9:30. But, first off, here's the deal. Like, Republicans, and I get this. I understand why. And I've even mentioned this as something. Conservatives are desperate for any sort of cultural victory. Few and far between are people that are like successful entertainers that are conservative. It's, so when someone comes out, even if they're not the most conservative, and they say something that's like, oh, well, that's good for, it tends that they're hailed as a hero. And for votes, actually, not this Kanye stuff today, but Kanye the rapper coming out and being like, yeah, I'm Trump, Trump's not a bad dude. Like, that sort of could do more to influence a certain sector of society than any amount of debating or policy arguments can. Because unfortunately, and I'm guilty of this as well, we all fall into sort of this cult of personality where, famous people say, like, for example, you'll hear, I'll give you an example I use all the time. Johnny Rotten from the Sex Pistols, who I really like, and he talks about how to be punk now basically means to be conservative, to be a right-winger. Because the left has become the authoritarians that he always railed against. And it's true, and I think he's an intelligent guy, but he's not like, that's not like a super genius thing to say. I said it before I heard him say it. He probably said it before I ever said it, but I didn't hear it. But I'm like, oh, he's this famous punk, right? That's why it's cool to me. And this happens all the time where, like, Mark Ruffalo said something, or, just people that are celebrities, and it's like, it gets more impact, but it's true because it influences the culture. But you always have to be careful, putting all of your eggs in a basket like that. It's fine to be like, I think Kanye said some things that were sensible or that I agreed with. or for that matter, Trump, or Biden, or Schumer, or Pelosi, or Milo, or Hassan, or me, or whoever. It's okay to be like, yeah, it's reasonable points, but you should never, like, deify people. And there are people that do this with Trump. Trump could do no wrong. It's what the Groypers do with Nick Fuentes. He could do no wrong. That's always a losing recipe. Humans will always disappoint you. Even I'll certainly disappoint you. I'll disappoint myself. You know. But unambiguously, what Kanye said today, I didn't watch the whole interview, but the parts I saw are indefensible. The only pseudo defense could be him being like, look, I was literally joking, which I don't think he was, but I don't know. No, we don't need to talk about the good things that Hitler did. We don't. Is it true that there are scientific advancements and things like that? I actually gave a speech on this once. I really did. This is a true story. So I was in debate in college, and my, third or fourth year in university, I would take these speech comm classes, and it was laughable. These classes were laughable. In fact, depending on who your professor was, some of the introductory classes were more difficult than the what's up, Kriska? Were more difficult than the higher level classes I took. I did. I defended Hitler. I'll explain. Nope, not fishing. Too cold. And this professor I had, we had to give these persuasive speeches. And the professor was doing everything she could to get interaction. There was like 12, 13 of us in the class. And what you got graded on was your speech. And then audience asked questions for 20 minutes afterwards. And they were supposed to be challenging questions. And how well you could defend it. And like, I remember some of the speeches that stuck out were like, Space Mountain's the best ride at Disney World. And then like audience questions, like you had to ask one question everyone. So you'd be like, did you like any of the other rides? Was the roller coaster fast? And there was her idea was to get debate going. The professor's idea, to get people arguing. So I was doing very well in the class, and she had me and one other person staying there like, can one of your speeches be something that will get people arguing? I was like, yeah, I could do that. So I gave a speech, and I researched it just the slightest amount, that the medical advances we got from Nazi scientists were excellent and a reason that we should kind of tip our cap to them. I didn't really say Hitler was a good guy or anything like that. I said, yeah, they were bad. They were horrible. They deserve to be punished for their crimes. But the medical advances we got from them and the scientific advances will actually do more for humanity than the damage they did. I couldn't get anyone to argue with me. It was just like, what? What are you doing? I'm basically up here saying, well, the Nazis were kind of worth it. And no, everyone's just like, oh, whatever. I mean, more of a byproduct of just people paying to get the passing grade. No one gave a shit, But that's a true story. That happened. And I'm just like, afterwards, I'm like, are you for real? Like, if I listened to that speech, I would be shredding it. I would be like, what? The idea is stupid. And I understand the contrarian view, and people are going to be like, well, it is true. There were scientific advancements that came out of the Nazis, and, and other people were bad, the communists, and blah, blah, blah. I don't care. I don't care. I'm not going to waste any breath at all trying to praise any Nazi. It's ridiculous. Would you do it with a pedophile? Well, that guy molested children, but he did build a successful small business in the area. It's, and what I find funny is the people that will defend this position. Well, What about the good things Hitler did? All people, that's what they'll say. All people, no one is totally irredeemable, blah, 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 Christianity, blah, blah, blah. And yet, then they'll sit there and they'll freak out about Joe Biden or Bill Clinton or Barack Obama. I'm sorry. If you're a Christian and you think, well, I can't condemn Hitler because there's good in all people, then just don't speak. That's what I suggest. Leave God do the forgiving, because I'm not. Yeah, I know Crisco. Maybe Kanye and Nick Fuentes and Milo are actively trying to destroy populism on the right. And it's effective strategy. Why do you think it is that those left-wing groups dressed up as Nazis for a Glenn Youngkin rally? They know that that's one of the best things you could do to infiltrate their group and then say heinous stuff. I don't care if Kanye and Nick and them later come out and say, well, we're just we were half playing around. We're half telling the truth. We don't think Hitler was a good guy, but blah, 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 blah. I don't care. It's ridiculous. It's not defensible. And that's it. That's all I have to say about it. I don't care. The left's eating it up because that's what they do. They don't care. All of the racist and anti-Semites that they've embraced into positions of power, they don't care. It's one set of rules for you and another for them. I'm not going to listen to them go, oh, Trump had dinner with these people, blah, 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 blah. I don't give a shit. I don't care at all. They probably are feds. That's probably true. But I'm just saying, for my sake, it's a joke. And I think Alex Jones could have played it better. Look, I would give some sort of deference to any guest that I have on, within reason, particularly if it's an interview and not a debate. It's human nature. You're going to give deference more to someone that's that big of a name, a Kanye West, a Donald Trump, a Joe Biden, a Bill Clinton, people that are like powerful, people like that. If you're doing an interview of them, you're going to give a little more deference. But there is no way, if I was interviewing Kanye West, that it would have continued as civilly once he was like, I think people kind of crap on Hitler too much. I'd just been like, are you for real? What are you doing with this mask on? What is this? You're a joke. You're probably right. It's what I said about like the Republican nomination here in 2024. Trump's a little bit of a special case, though I've criticized him a lot. But it's like no one that really challenges the establishment will win the Republican nomination. And if someone does, then I'll assume they're not going to really challenge the Republican establishment. But that's how I feel. But, the Republicans, they'll be out there to, Kanye, what he said and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that's fine. You could say that. But the Democrats won't do it. Remember when Ilhan Omar was accused of anti-Semitism? Thanks so much, Dusk G. I really appreciate it. Appreciate the sub. Thank you. Remember that? And then the Democrats put together a resolution condemning hate speech. And all of it was like, when white people are mean to gay people, when Christians are mean to Muslims, when men are mean to women. Conveniently leaving out all the very thing that you were accused of, which was a Muslim black Democratic congressperson going after Jews. Somehow that missed the resolution. They're just like, yeah, we hate all hate, including, and then they basically attack white men. Straight white men. That's how they do it. So, but that's it. I'm glad that the left has something to talk about again. And that's the beauty of Trump for them. Finally they could stop talking about Destiny's sex life. They could do it. Yay. They did it. Now we can talk about Kanye. Woo! You're wondering if it was Kanye. I don't know. What's up, Gizmo? Hope you're feeling better, man. But it's all red herring. Kanye may be a world-class turd defending Hitler. But he can steal billions of dollars like SBF. He's getting puff pieces. Walking free. Left don't really care about that. He was a big Democratic donor. Yeah, but he gave to Republicans too. True. And SBF? You don't know about SBF? What the hell is this? Bankman-Fried? Oh, Naira that. Yeah, the guy from FTX. He's getting puff pieces and interviews. People were applauding him. But it was funny because I saw sort of lefties on Twitter like, well, he gave money to... Because this is how it'll go. Like I saw Lecture Fan tweeted out, was like, if this guy was a Republican donor, he would have been in jail already. And then lefties are like, he did donate. He claims he donated to Republicans. And it's like, yeah, I think both those people are missing the mark. Of course he donated to Republicans. The establishment types, I don't care. Look, I am Republican. I ran as a Republican. I talk to Republicans. I try my best to work within the Republican system to get populists that actually care about people. That's what I do. But I'm not beholden to Republicans to the level that I'm not going to say that there aren't corrupt Republicans or call out when I see it. SBF's like Jeffrey Epstein in a sense. Not accusing him of child sex trafficking, but that he was involved in serious business with prominent leaders to the point where it's hard to bring him down. Do I really need to stop supporting Trump? Is that what I'm doing? And do I need to stop it? Is that what I need to do? And so that guy's allowed to steal billions of dollars, involved in all sorts of corruption. The regulators let it go. Hard Sword says, maybe apologize. Hard Sword, I tell you what, I got 10 minutes. Why don't you call in and we'll discuss it. Tell me which politician you voted for in 2008. Go ahead. Who'd you vote for? Another lefty that's demanding that I do things. You need to start doing this because of someone that someone associated with. You don't have to debate. I'm asking you a question. Who'd you vote for in 2008? You voted for Joe Biden in 2008. in the general election. But I believe the election, did you write Biden's name in? I could be wrong. I thought that election was between Obama and John McCain. Unless you voted third party. Did you vote for Obama? You voted for Obama. This guy? That's the guy you supported there? In the center there? That guy right there. That's who you voted for? That's who you supported? That guy? That guy to the right there, right on the picture to the right, that's Louis Farrakhan. 2 weeks before the Pittsburgh synagogue shooting, he said that he likened Jews to termites. If Kanye is an entertainer that's anti-Semitic, Louis Farrakhan's their king. How do you know if that picture's not photoshopped? Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, if you don't know, you might want to ask yourself why you don't know. Maybe it's because you're willfully uninformed. Maybe it's because you're a bad faith sack of shit. Maybe it's because the media has a double standard. When an anti-Semite is seen around Donald Trump or a conservative, they foam at the mouth. But when the most powerful Democrats are literally palling around with the most powerful anti-Semites, they barely say a peep. Yeah, Reverend Jeremiah Wright. This is all well-known stuff. But Hard Sword supported him. There you go. Hard Sword supported Barack Obama even after hanging out with Farrakhan. Hard Sword probably enjoyed the Pittsburgh synagogue shooting. I'm sorry, Hard Sword. I don't like anti-Semites on my page. Or on my... I really don't like it. So I think we're going to have to let you go. But thanks so much for joining. I do appreciate the support, but we just don't like rabid anti-Semite Nation of Islam Farrakhan supporters like yourself here. Any final words? Okay, bye. Now, sometimes I just unblock everyone. What's up, a girl named Tom? You really need to stop supporting Trump after he had dinner with Kanye and Nick Fuentes before he knew they were anti-Semites. I supported Barack Obama even after he knowingly was hanging out with the Nation of Islam. You gotta love these people. All right, give me I'll stick around for 2-3 more minutes, and then I'm gonna change cameras here. How do I know if that was Photoshop? Isn't it funny how the people that demand these things of you, CNN told me I should be outraged that Trump had dinner with Kanye. Oh, blah, 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 blah. Anti-Semites. People hang around with anti-Semites. David Duke once said he liked Trump. Right. Then he said he was voting for Biden in 2020. I'm sorry, that was Richard Spencer. Well, that's different. That's okay. Biden doesn't have to condemn them. Maybe you yawn. But you could say this about anything, right? I've had these sort of... The problem once... I'm not saying you were absolutely wrong or that you can't speculate, but I choose to act on face value 95% of the time because you could never end this speculation game. You could be like, let's say you would say, I think that Obama's administration was terrible. I think it was a terrible administration. It was globalist in nature, fostered racial division, and I could say, but yes, maybe Obama saw that stuff was coming inevitably. And so he decided to ramp it up, knowing that a populist president like Donald Trump would then have more of a chance of getting elected. I suppose you could speculate, but I don't see the utility of it. All I know is what he said is wrong on face value. He absolutely has the right to say it. It's wrong on face value. And a bunch of people on the left will use it which is their right. They can, but just know that they're bad faith. They don't care when anti-Semites are on their side. They don't care. Again, I go back. I didn't hear anyone else in the country that commented, except me, that in the Texas funeral of George Floyd, or wherever it was, one of the big ones that were broadcast everywhere, the reverend or preacher or whatever that was holding this ceremony took a special moment to thank the Nation of Islam for providing security. An anti-Semitic black nationalist group. And every single network aired it and didn't say a word. No problem. Imagine that if, like, you remember what was the Bundy Ranch where the one Bundy guy got killed? Imagine that if every network had been airing their funeral, and the preacher got up and said, "We'd like to thank the Ku Klux Klan for providing security here today." How do you think that would have went? Not so well. Anyways, here 9 minutes for an hour and a half until 11. We have the great John Burk will be coming on. John Burk is a veteran, owns one or two companies, has a very big YouTube channel, has a podcast, hosted some TV shows. Yeah, I agree, Elon. That's, if it is true, like for example, it is hypothetically possible that there are people on the Democratic side, like maybe Jack Dorsey, just hypothetically. It is hypothetically possible that Jack Dorsey is, when he was in charge of Twitter, was like, holy cow, I can't believe how insane the government overreach is and all of these lefties are. I can't believe it. So maybe he was letting the framework, knowing that someone was going to come in and be like, look, when they see all this evidence, that could be. But what I could do is just interact well, this is what I see Dorsey saying and doing with his company, and this is my feelings on it. Maybe secretly Kanye is I have enough clout that I could say the most vile things and never tell anyone that the reason I'm saying them is because I want. Thank you, Gizmo. Really appreciate the cheer. Is because it's sort of a push for, this is why free speech needs to exist. That could be, but all I could do is say what he's saying is heinous. It's horrible, but he has the right to say it. That's it. Moving on. You met Amon Bundy? Yeah. Yeah, I doubt that they would have the KKK running security. So I'm going to go to the restroom real quick, and then I'll be right back, and we'll probably set up a sound test with John Burk and start here at 9:30. So I'll be right back. Oh, one other thing I'll say about the Kanye thing. It's stupid. There's so many stories to talk about, and it's just falling into the left strap. Thank you so much, Neil, for the subscription. I really appreciate it. Having said that, it is newsworthy. I mean, It is a joke. I mean, the guy was wearing basically a gimp mask. He goes on Alex Jones' show. What a shit show. I mean, so it's definitely, it's one of those things that if I was like hanging out with my friends that don't even interact with politics or whatever, they'd be like, "Did you see this shit? This Kanye with the gimp mask?" And so, yeah, I don't mind people talking about it. But I mean, let's keep it in perspective. You know, we're kind of on the cusp of World War III, you know, a recession that could turn into a depression, economic devastation, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah, keep it in perspective. All right, you're going to lose me for a second. Whoop. Oh, what is happening? What? Oh, that's why. There we go. Sorry, John, if you're there. 1 second. What? I'm terrible. Now we're rolling. What's happening?
Hey, brother, how are you?
I'm living the dream. How have you been?
Long time no see, homie.
I know. It's great. So I'm live right now, but it's just like a few OGs.
Okay.
That we'll start at 9:30, and then I'll record it and put it up as its own video. But they're
Oh,
talking
okay,
about
cool.
Kanye and his gimp mask on Alex Jones.
I've been streaming on Rumble now, because they don't censor me over there. It's been a weird thing was like as soon as I got banned on Twitch and I pushed over to Rumble, following went through the roof, viewership through the roof, compared to what I was doing on Twitch. And so I was streaming the Kanye interview, and oh my God, dude, it's just my God. Interested to hear your takes on this. I was looking at it with an I was listening to it with an open mind at first, but there were some things that Kanye said, and then especially Nick Fuentes, and I'm like, I no, just absolutely not.
I mean, we could talk about it, and I would still love to call and do your podcast, and we could talk. I'll just say my general take is this. I think oftentimes what happens is that we're absolutely right that the left and the media want to smear everyone as racist, which is true, but sometimes there are racists. I mean, that happens.
You make a very good point because they do it so much. When the time actually comes, it becomes boy who cried wolf. Nobody believes you.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And so, that's kind of my take on what's going on with it. I think that I have no love for anyone that wants to be like, but what about the good things that Hitler did? Technically, possibly true. There were scientific advances and stuff.
Yeah.
But that's to me no different than like, oh, did you hear so-and-so got arrested for, child pornography down the street? Well, he did create a successful small business. No, screw all that. Like that's, I don't care anymore, so.
I like your comparison there. Yeah, I agree. And I think people were using that to defend Kanye. Because when people are like, no, let him explain himself. I was like, I already know where you're going with this. I already know what you're going to try and do and the stance you're going to take, which is basically say, look, no, they did do some good. It's like, yeah, that's like saying I hate slavery, but I love slave owners. Like that doesn't make any fucking sense. That
and they never
sense.
Hold this. The same people that are saying that, right? You'll never hear them be like, oh, Joe Biden. Well, like when it comes to Democrats that they hate, they'll go all in on them. They're not well, as Christians, we can't dislike anyone. We have to say everyone's forgivable. That's not how they act when it comes to the political game. But with Hitler, all of a sudden it's like, well, we have to be biblical with that. I'll leave God be merciful if he wants. I'm not going to be. Screw Hitler. I'm going to take the bold stance of saying I don't like Adolf Hitler.
Pretty sure God didn't favor him. Not the type of dude that you're going to see knocking at the pearly gates going, I'm here. I was promised tickets, yeah. It's like, you don't like Jews. They killed your son, right? I killed him back. Doesn't work that way, bro.
Yeah.
Sure.
I like that Mel Gibson movie. Yeah. I can't do a German accent. I'm terrible at accents. But all right, I'm gonna just real quick. We'll get started here in like 1 minute. It's nothing fancy. It's just gonna be me and you talking. So,
sure.
But I like to record them because then I could upload to Rumble and stuff. I need the live. I'll ask you about this once we start streaming. Do you still have to pay to live stream on Rumble?
No.
Okay. Originally you did, and that's why I wasn't doing it. So I'm probably gonna start streaming there.
You can pay to expand your basically what you have access to, like unlimited streams and stuff like that. But it's only like $5 or $6 a month or something like that. It's cheap.
Yeah, that's what I'll do. So, all right, we'll get started here in 1 second.
Sure.
Welcome, everyone, to the Normal America Show. We have my second interview special, yet to be named, because I'm waiting for my producer Aftershock to come up with a clever name. But a good friend of mine joining me at the last minute today, which I couldn't be more thankful for. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only John Burk, business owner, veteran, and parody painter extraordinaire. I can't thank you enough for coming on last minute. Thanks so much for being here. It's been too long. It's great to be able to talk to you again.
It has. Thanks, Rob. Always a pleasure to be here with you, bro. Very intelligent guy you are. Love listening to your talking points. Love listening to your debates, especially. I love that you're passionate about your beliefs and you go after everybody. And God, I do not want to be on the receiving end of one of your debates. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm sure. Everyone says that, and then it's like the next thing you know, it turns out the things you hear me talk about is the only things I have any knowledge of whatsoever. For example,
don't we all?
We had to put new tires on my car this week, and I'm just looking at pictures like this, and my father-in-law is sitting there shaking his head. He's like, "Just get out of here. Just give me your wallet. We'll pay for it." It's like, yeah, that debate I'm not doing so well. Anything that makes you a man, I suck at, basically, except arguing. So, but I had an initial question because I was explaining who you were to my audience. I know you own Shell Shock CBD. Do you own another company as well? Weren't you making tankards or?
Yeah, that business didn't work out. We had to shut it down. Unfortunately, it didn't do very well. I've launched a lot of businesses, and unfortunately, Shell Shock was the one turd that I threw against the wall that did stick. It's now valued at I want to say 6 or 7 million. Very blessed in that aspect. But no, there was a lot of failures that came with that. So it wasn't just a strike gold on the first swing of the pickaxe. It's been a lot of endeavors, a lot of experimentation, and it worked. So yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. It was one of the things I always thought was funny with Trump, where they were like, oh, look at how many business he's had that failed. Right. Almost all successful businessmen have the same story, where the entrepreneurial spirit of taking risks, you're never going to get a big reward unless you take risks. So, I think that's amazing.
Yeah, 100%, dude. It's one of those things that if you look at many successful entrepreneurs, it came with massive undertakings, massive multiple endeavors. It's rare, is it, that you're going to land? I mean, look at Steve Jobs. And I hate using the cliche examples of Steve Jobs, Bezos, and the rest of them, but they invested a lot of time. There were other opportunities they went after as well. Multiple failed things such as that, multiple failed endeavors. But it's the people that are going to go out there and be willing to take the risks, especially financial risks, and put it all on the field. And that's why when people try and come after successful business owners such as myself, and they try and lord that over your head, it's like, well, you have the same opportunity I do. I put a lot of money on a credit card, or my partner did, and with the idea of me paying him my fair share, which was like $2,000, which was a lot of money. And when people want to say that they want to have access to your success, it's like, no, you didn't risk. You took no risk. So if my business goes under, I'm on the hook right now for about $4 million worth of inventory, not to mention 3 more years of a contract of $7,500 a month. So it's a lot of money. So yeah.
Yeah, it's, so I grew up in a small town in Pennsylvania here, and I used to bartend, and there was this guy that everyone hated in town. I liked the guy. He was 7, 8 years older than me. And
that sounds like you, Rob. Everybody hates him, you like him. That sounds like you.
He was big money, small town. And when I say big money, he's making $85,000 a year. You know what he did? He went and took his test to be the guy that read your water meter, and came and inspected water and stuff. And everyone was so bitter about this. Oh, he's got this cushy job. And he used to tell them all the time, dude, it's $3,000. Go take the class, take the test. They're desperate for people, but people would rather tear others down. Everyone gets, and we all do it to an extent. We all get comfortable to an extent. But when people are out there taking risks, it's like, I'm going to shit on that person because they made it. And, I think it's ridiculous. Yeah.
It's people projecting. That's all it boils down. It's people projecting their own failures and insecurities, or they lack of courage. I would venture a guess. Honestly, I think a lot of that comes from jealousy.
Yeah. On my chat on Twitch, Lavin214 says, John, I joined your Patreon today. So awesome.
Oh,
thank you for joining John's Patreon.
Thank you so much. Sincerely.
One of the things I was going to ask you is, I think you're one of the most interesting people to follow, like on Twitter, on your Rumble channel. I don't know that I have ever met anyone that has as many hobbies as you. Like one day I'll look and you're putting up, videos of you shooting at a range. Then the next day you're doing ballroom dancing. Where do you find the time to do all of this stuff?
I make the time. It's not a matter of finding it. It's a matter of making it. It's a matter of prioritizing what is important in your life. And a lot of that spawned from a recent divorce 2 years ago, that when I was able to go on my own and start learn more about myself and the reality of death becoming, which is really weird to me because, I did a lot of time in the army, did tours overseas. So death was a prominent figure in my life. And I guess maybe I felt like I was going to live forever back then. And I feel like the older you get, the more that mortality tends to kind of creep into your mind and really begin to resonate with you. So when I was and I'm still on this journey of understanding myself, who it is that John Burk is, the things that I truly like, not other people's projections of what I should like. What do I actually like? And in so doing, I was like, you know what? I've always wanted to learn Argentine tango. And I started it. I took up fencing. I took up a lot of different passionate hobbies. I don't fence anymore. It's just not my thing. I still tango. I've been on tango for 2.5 years now. I just got back from Dubai. There was a tango gala over there I went to. That was a lot of fun. I got to dance with a woman from China, another woman from Kazakhstan. Just a great time, time. And had I not pursued that passion, I never would have went. So it's kind of poetically beautiful when you go after these things and you never know where it's going to take you. You really don't, but you got to be willing to go out there and make yourself a little uncomfortable by prioritizing and making time to pursue things for you.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. One of the things I do is I work with people with developmental disabilities, autism, and things like that. One of the things I find amazing, they don't have this stigma, right? Where we have this sort of cloud of like, well, I don't want to fail. I don't want to be embarrassed by something. A lot of the people I work with don't have that. And it provides opportunities for them that are absolutely amazing, where it's like the chances they're willing to take. Like, I could get in front of 10 million people and give a speech, no problem. But to dance in front of 20 people at my wedding, I was scared shitless. like for something like that. And it's difficult to understand that that's just a weakness in your brain. That's like, look, there's nothing to be ashamed of if you're willing to take risks and willing to try to find out what you have an interest in. Like these doors that could open, I think, as you're showing, could be amazing.
100%. Yeah. It's whether at the end of your days, man, at the end of your life, you got to ask yourself, was I the man in the arena or was I the spectator in the stands talking about how the guy in the arena should have been doing it, but you never did it. You don't know. I would much rather be the guy that's like the Roosevelt speech says is covered, marred in dust and sweat and blood that can undertake time and time again and say, I failed, but at least I tried. Yep. I don't have to, I have to go out through my life and say, what if, because what if never went to the arena. And Greg Plitt, a big hero of mine, said a long time ago before he passed, he said, what if never went to the arena? And he was right on that. And that's kind of one of the things that I live my life by. It's be the man in the arena. And the man in the arena is also going to fail. Accept that. Understand that. Make that a reality. And when you want to try and tiptoe through the garden of success, afraid to step on the weeds of failure, you're not going to have a very fun journey. It's just the way it is. Life comes with successes and life comes with failures. Yeah,
I couldn't agree more. And I think that also it's one of the things that you get a lot of slings and arrows pointing your actual opinions out online. It just is the nature of it. And, I've been wrong. I know we've all been wrong at times. And, on my show, and I'm sure you've had it in your show where, people will tell you like, oh, you were wrong about this. You predicted Republicans would win the Senate. They didn't. Haha. And it's like, well, yeah, I think everyone knows no one's perfect, but at least you're putting yourself out there and you're being authentic. And it's easy to be on the sidelines and just say like, you were wrong about this. That's why I like interacting with conservative streamers, because most of these platforms that we're on, we're sort of the vast minority that has to tiptoe through, I can't say this on this platform. I can't say this on this platform. It's difficult. You're putting your image and your career at risk to some extent, or your career prospects, by saying some of this stuff.
No, you're dead on the money on that one. And that's why I prefer Rumble now, because I got banned on Twitch. I got partnered with them. Was partnered with them for 2 or 3 years, and it was all in the same day. I had my YouTube following of about 300,000 that got nuked. My TikTok following of almost 200,000 got nuked, and then Twitch nuked me all in the same day. All in the same day. It was a coordinated effort, And so that's when I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna go over to Rumble at this point. And yeah, you're right. When you own a business in the face of cancel culture and stuff like that, and you're putting your political opinions out there that do go against the narrative of the majority of the leftist people that control the press, things such as that, you are taking a gamble. But cancel culture only works if you allow it to work. When the internet first, when Facebook was really kind of just making its way into the public space, I went viral so many different times by making very controversial statements in regards to obesity and things such as that. And the people did try coming after me. So I've been on the receiving end when the entire world wants to come after you. Like, you could have Googled my name before they took down my YouTube channel. You would have seen the viral videos I was putting out there as far as transgenderism in the military. Obesity glorification is not something we should be proud of, or nor endorse it in any way or glamorize it in any shape or form. So I've been on that receiving end. I know what I'm talking about. And when people want to tiptoe again around what their actual opinions are, case in point, like Alex Jones in the Kanye interview, you saw Alex Jones doing some really nervous laughing there when Kanye says, "I love Nazis." Alex Jones did not have the balls to sit there and call Kanye out on that, because he also knows you got to handle Kanye with the kid gloves, otherwise he runs away.
Yeah, and it's one of the hardest things to do. Like, all of us have our own individual personalities. I'm not someone that runs from confrontation, but I'm also someone that in my real life, like when out there in the real world, like I'm the kind of guy, if someone cuts in line in front of me at Walmart, I'm just like, whatever. If the steak's well done and you ordered it rare, you're just like, okay, whatever. That's the way I am. It's not really in my nature. When I have a debate's one thing, but if you have a guest on, like, and you're doing an interview, it's not really in my nature to try to be super confrontational, but there's a line. And that's what I thought about the Alex Jones thing. He doesn't look as bad as Kanye, but he absolutely, like, at that point, I would be sort of intimidating that it's like, okay, one of the most powerful cultural figures in the world, Kanye West, I'm interviewing him. He showed up in a gimp mask. What the hell is going on? I kind of have to treat him with kid gloves, so I'm going to be deferential to a point. But once he starts in the, like, well, Nazis did good things, Hitler's not all bad, I think I'd have been like, what? Excuse me? What are you saying? And I think that is sort of a bad look for Alex Jones as well.
I do as well. And right now, dude, there is such a slippery slope between because I'll just come out and say it. I'm not afraid to say this. Criticisms of Israel does not an anti-Semite make. That's not true. You can criticize Jewish people. You can criticize Jewish culture. The ideas of superiority, then you're getting into the realms of racism and things such as that, because, Judaism, ethno-state, all that stuff. But what I feel the slippery slope that where it exists is those that have genuine criticisms of Jewish nepotism, which is why I wish Alex Jones would have really focused on that. Instead, that interview was a shotgun blast of stupid. When you got Fuentes, who's a theocrat, speaking this bullshit over here, you got Kanye with this Netanyahu. We're like, what the hell is going on? Because I feel like intellects are tuning in because we want to see, okay, maybe Kanye is misunderstood. Maybe he's about to expose this Jewish cabal that we all kind of wondered about. Nobody really could say it out loud because, God forbid, if you question anything related to Judaism or Jewish nepotism, then you're automatically an anti-Semite. Like, that's not true at all. That's like saying that black crime that comprises, majority of the violent crime statistics, acknowledging that does not make you a racist. That's just a factual statement. But where Kanye, and I know I'm kind of going all over the place, but what Kanye failed to do was come with the receipts. Who are you talking about, dude? He gave me one or two Jewish banks, Jewish media. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but educate me. And that's why I tuned in to watch that, because I figured Alex Jones, and as much as I don't care for Alex Jones, he does have some opinions that are like, okay, I got to hear more. Like, maybe you got something here. What do you got here, bro? Because you spit some outlandish stuff.
Yeah.
And when you tune in to watch that interview, I'm left just going, I feel dumber for having watched that and expecting Kanye to give me anything educational or any kind of intellectual meat to chew on. It was just like, this guy's stupid. This guy's an idiot. So to go back to my original point, I think right now people are trying to differentiate between those that are using Kanye to further their actual anti-Semitic beliefs and those that are like, no, you can criticize Jewish people and still not be an anti-Semite. And I think Nick Fuentes is definitely on the right side of that. So not being the right versus wrong, but literally the side of puppeteering Kanye.
And the left understands this too. If you remember, like, I actually defended, I believe it was Ilhan Omar. It was one of the squad when she said in regards to AIPAC, it's all about the Benjamins. Now, maybe she is an anti-Semite. She could very well be. But to me, that statement's not proof of it. To me, that statement was saying the Jewish lobby, AIPAC, is spending huge amounts of money to be influential in our system. And I think, there were Democrats that rightfully came out and said, look, you could criticize the government of Israel, and that doesn't, you're criticizing Zionism or the government of Israel. That doesn't mean that you hate Jewish people. So they understand this. But the reason I don't take them seriously is because they're bad faith. Almost everyone on the left is bad faith. So I'm not going to listen to them be like, oh, well, you need to condemn Kanye, you need to condemn Trump, you need to condemn Alex Jones or Nick Fuentes. Screw that. They had no problem with Obama hanging out with Farrakhan in the Congressional Black Caucus, who's the biggest anti-Semite around. And so, they're very good. Our greatest strength is our greatest weakness. We're willing to have introspection, look at people that agree with us and say, this is wrong. They're not willing to do that. They'll go on offense and use any tool necessary and then be completely hypocritical the next day. So I don't care to apologize to them.
No, not at all. And, to further elaborate on your point or to prove it, I'm battling a chest cold, so I apologize. Or a head cold, got a sinus infection. Or it's COVID version 10. I don't know. I mean, whatever. We follow the science around here. Why is it that it's perfectly acceptable for public figures and the like to go out and attack Christianity, especially specifically straight, heterosexual, white Christians, but you say one thing about any Jew, be it good or bad, and you're canceled? Why is it you say anything about any black community person, anything? Basically, the point being, you can say anything about anybody, but God forbid if you say anything towards the protected minority class, even if it's rooted in truth. You're right. The left is very intellectually disingenuous. You cannot acknowledge the fact that certain stereotypes do exist from a kernel of truth. And it doesn't inherently make groups bad. It doesn't inherently make groups good. But there are certain things that we should look into to why do those stereotypes exist anyway? Again, Jewish nepotism. Yes, it does exist. 100% exists. Sure. To say it doesn't is to deny the human condition of corruptibility, greed, and things like that. So what you're saying on the opposite is saying you're saying Jews are above that, therefore they're not of human nature like you. Like that makes no sense to me. So that's why I also feel like social media has been a very big disservice to conversations where we can progress and make strides to better ourselves and have better understanding, because social media has given people access that probably should not be in these conversations. It's like a Kanye sitting in on a conversation between you or myself where it's like, let's actually break this down and let's discuss this. And you got Kanye, who's like, dude, shut the fuck up. Like, shut the fuck up and go sit at the kids' table. So Kanye being a big public figure, cultural icon, if you want to call him that, he does a lot of disingenuous, makes a lot of disingenuous statements, because when he first said, I saw clips of his podcast or his interview circulating on Twitter while I was doing my show, and I was like, oh boy, here we go. I was like, well, you know what? I saw Dave Portnoy post something on Twitter, and it was just like, it was a little clip, and it was basically like Kanye saying something positive about Hitler. It's like, hold on, okay, I've made this mistake time and time again. Give me the full clip. Let me hear everything he said, because you people on both sides, left and right, do this, and that's what pisses me off. That's why these blue check Benny Johnsons and the rest of them, they're guilty of it. And it annoys me. It's intellectual dishonesty. They know what they're doing. And that's why I feel like a lot of these GOP people are fucking grifters, and I hate them. Shouldn't say hate, it's a strong word. But all of them, I don't like them. So when I listened to the interview tonight, I was like, no, there's no defending Kanye after this. I went in there good faith saying, prove what they're saying is wrong. But then when you say it's like, I like Nazis, you're kind of just you cooked your own goose, bro. I don't know. I can't defend that, or there's no changing that statement to where it could be like, oh, what he actually meant to say was, it's like, no, you can't do that.
Right, and we're willing to do that, right? Look, I'm not saying there aren't people on the left. There are good people on the left that will call out. But overarchingly, the people in positions of power that in the establishment and the left, they know how to weaponize this stuff. I did want to say real quick, Nico Pluto on YouTube gave a $200 super chat and said to split half of it with John. So I'll get with you after this, John, and make sure that you get half of that. But thank you so much, Nico. See, all we had to do was criticize Kanye. Maybe Nico's not a big Kanye supporter, but
is that how we make money?
Yeah. Hey, we could do it all day. But
thank you.
But yeah, one of the things, like, to kind of take this in a slightly different direction, because I know you've talked about things regarding sort of transgender issues, transgender with children. I find it very strange that the amount of vitriol and hatred that comes out for someone like Trump just having dinner with Kanye, or Elon Musk wanting free speech and stuff like that. And yet now as we hear more of these stories like the Balenciaga story and other stories like, for example, Elon coming in and doing his best to remove hashtags that had literally nude photos of children up on Twitter. Isn't it interesting how there's less vitriol from the people in power towards that stuff than there is through someone like Elon Musk or Kanye West?
Yeah, because I feel like by and large, and I will generalize on this because I see this across the spectrum of the left or the leftist ideology, they've turned themselves into contrarians and they pigeonhole themselves nonstop. So it gets to the point where you can't disagree with the statements you've already made because you got to double down at this point. And that's why I feel like there's a lot of intellectual dishonesty. All these arguments are bad faith arguments. Because when you look at this from a common sense approach, and you know me, I'm not a Republican. I'm a constitutionalist. I'm more libertarian that leans right. Economically, I'm way more conservative. Culturally, I'm a little bit more progressive. I don't even believe in marriage. Like, you do what you want. I don't believe in church and state. Like, I'm a separate church and state, but I'm a Christian. I believe in God. But I believe in liberty. So when I look at both sides of this, and I used to be a diehard conservative, diehard pledge allegiance to the flag. It's like, it's kind of, I'm for it. I just don't believe it should be forced. When I look at the left and I've tried to understand more progressive ideals that they've been espousing, especially for transgenderism and stuff like that, I don't see where you're coming from. I can't, the logic doesn't compute with me. When I see this transgenderism movement that was basically spawned or came in the heels of the LGBT, or the LGB rather, excuse me, which still doesn't make sense to me because we're talking about sexuality and what does gender have to do with it? But that's the hypocrisy and the insanity of the left. It's all about feelings and emotion. It's not about logical, rational, or facts, or even science for that matter. The same side that says follow the science denies the science when the science finally comes to showcase what we've been saying from the get-go. And, you know, when we go back and you look at these statements the left are making, everything is Trump. They still have not moved on from Trump. And that little glimmer of about a week there when DeSantis looked like he might be challenging Trump, all guns shifted from Trump over to DeSantis. And this is what the liberal media does. This is what Democrats, by and large, this is what the main talking heads on Twitter do. And to cap it, that's why Democrats losing Twitter is the biggest L they could have taken, because Twitter was the main conduit of pumping out misinformation and the censorship of anyone right of left, not even just conservative, anyone right of left to include libertarians, independents, green, whatever. They censored you. They could not have anybody on that platform that could counter them. And they can't exist. You cannot allow that, because it'd be like somebody that is trying to brainwash people, like in liberal universities. What do they do to these conservative speakers? That they try and protest, they try and get them shut down because they can't debate it. They don't even want to hear it. It's like the monkey see, hear, eat. You don't want nothing like that. So when you can't even have debate, when you can't even have cordial debate and discussion, you've already lost. You've shown that your side cannot live up to the standard of saying, let's have a good faith debate, and they can't do it. So that's why it's so crucial that I feel like conservatives need to shift away from Instagram and Facebook, get to Twitter, because there's still liberals on Twitter. There's a lot of people not going anywhere, but that's where the conversations need to go. That's where the conversations need to happen now, because now liberals, this is why they're crying. This is why Biden is talking about through Karine Jean-Pierre, we're going to keep an eye on Twitter. You have no jurisdiction on Twitter. Right. You can't do shit to them. So, technically they can try and investigate. But what they're doing right now is the entire world, the global leaders, are character assassinating Elon, because you know why? Elon's got the proof. He bought the company. He already said Twitter interfered in elections. Now imagine Elon really opens Pandora's political box of corruption and feeds that to the press. They're either, they could run with it or not, because Fox is, I feel they are controlled opposition. I hate saying that word. It's been so used, but I think Fox, it's just, I don't know. There's times that Fox reports stuff. It's like, you guys are ridiculous. But the point being, Elon's got powerful, damning information on probably literally everybody in the world. So that's why the EU's threatening to ban him. That's why England's threatening to ban him. That's why America, like Joe Biden was talking about, well, let's just watch. They know Elon now has the power. And that's why it's very crucial conservatives take to Twitter, open your accounts, push information, push the facts, because when people make these posts like you do, you're helping educate people, not necessarily saying, look what I know, but look for yourself here. You can reference it here. I'm kind of showing you. And it creates this big circuit of information that can flow. And unfortunately, with free speech, which doesn't exist on social media, it's impossible, but with as free a speech as we can have, that's how we educate people. That's how we get people to turn out to vote. That's how we hopefully would get better candidates. And that's why I feel like Twitter it's where we need to go right. That's where the battle needs to be had, because we're not going to win Instagram or Facebook.
I agree. And you know, and with new platforms like Rumble and places like that, you know, to me, you look at the candidates that Democrats are putting out now, it's John Fetterman here in Pennsylvania, or Katie Hobbs, that just aren't doing debates. Like the ideal Democrat, and not just Democrat.
Hold up, push pause real quick. Incumbents normally don't do debates. Incumbents usually don't do debates. So when people talk about Katie Hobbs not debating, it's like, yeah, incumbents never do. John Fetterman, bro, that's that core of that. That's just Trump derangement syndrome. And the fact that Trump ever endorsed Oz, the fact that even the GOP, I don't know what they were thinking of. Shapiro was right to an extent. The quality of candidate is important. And right now it feels like this is a circus. It is a circus. And I'll even look at people like Trump. I'll like, okay, Trump's a great businessman. That's wonderful. But is this the best we got? Are these the best and brightest minds that this nation has produced in the political spectrum? No, it's not. We can do better. The candidates need to be better. And unfortunately, when we jump behind people like Herschel Walker, are we insane? Are we insane? Herschel Walker. What qualifies this guy? I've listened to him talk, and it's literally GOP talking points that these boomer Bible thumpers, and I don't mean that in a disrespect. I'm talking about like the ones that the Bibles are like headed with the sandwich on their head. They hear nothing outside of that. Like you can't talk about anything else. When you see Herschel Walker talk, it's literally just the neocon GOP talking points. And you got more moderate conservatives, more progressive conservatives going, hey, bro, I'm all about liberty. I'm all about freedom. Mm-hmm. What are you talking about, bro? So I feel like we pandered to the neocon boomer base so much in the GOP. And if they really want to be effective, they've got to progress. You've got to get rid of the McConnells. You got to get rid of the Grahams. You got to get rid of, I don't know how the hell we keep getting Romney. Romney is just, he's like a Crenshaw 2.0. I don't get this. So until the GOP wipes itself of this grift, which this is the good old boy system, this is the swamp. And I don't even say the swamp in the sense of the MAGA people. This is the political corruption that has infected our government. This is why shit is not getting done. And I'll caveat to that because in 2016, we had a freaking executive branch that leaned right. You had a Congress that leaned right. You had a SCOTUS that leaned right. And what did we get done? Jack shit.
Absolutely.
Jack shit. We could have taken away Section or Article 230. We didn't. Trump could have legalized marijuana. We didn't. Nothing happened. And I know all the MAGA people are going to shit themselves when a fellow somewhat conservative says that. But we got to wake up and understand we've been lied to. Trump did a lot of good. I'm not lying on that. I'm not going to take that away from him. He did insanely well for America. We prospered. But Trump was not a 2A president. You tell that to a MAGA person and their heads get him like, what? Yep. It's like, no, he was not a 2A president. So I feel like when people want to put Trump on this pedestal, like you need to criticize these politicians. You can't let them just run buckshot and say, "Oh, hail Trump." When Trump does wrong, and that's one thing I will credit Shapiro on, because right now Shapiro is really on this anti-Semite kick. Because any criticism of Israel or Jews, instantly critical. Well, wait a minute, guys, hold on. Just hypothetically speaking, that's anti. No, Ben, it's not.
That's a good.
Like, calm down, Jew boy, calm down. Like it's just a joke. Calm down. But when I forget what I was talking about. But I can go off on Shapiro, but yeah, that was a lot there.
Well, I just want to say real quick, thank you, Achilles, for a $10 donation. Really appreciate it. Nico sent another $200 donation and told me to keep one $200 and John to keep the other $200. So I will make sure that he gets that. Thank you all. I really appreciate it.
Making me rich.
Yeah, let's go. I'll quit my job. I'm just gonna talk to John 2 hours a day every day. It'd be fantastic. I couldn't agree more. I think that's an interesting point you make about Trump. I took a lot of heat. I'm a small channel. Back in March of 2020, while Trump was still in office, I immediately, when Trump came out and was like, I don't know what Kip's doing in Georgia, not having lockdowns. Newsom is doing a great job and Cuomo's doing a great job. I had been offered a job through Trump's campaign a week before that. It was low level. It was going to be like $25,000 to basically coordinate the county that I live in and do phone banks and knock on doors and things like that. But part of the condition was I had to end my channel. And I was like, no, I won't do it. And so then a week later, I found myself bashing Trump. Was like, this is a huge mistake. What are you doing? Embracing these lockdowns. This is going to keep you from winning. It's going to devastate the economy. And I had just person after person in my chat like, I'm unfollowing you. I knew you were a secret Democrat. Anytime you put your faith in a human in totality like that, you will be let down. I liked Trump because Trump represented a sort of populism and constitutional values that I was for. As soon as he throws those out the window, I don't like Trump on the... Now, it's not like he threw them all out. He was 80% good and 20% bad or some sort. But I'm going to criticize that bad. And a lot of people can't handle that. They're just in this cult where it's like, nope, he's always right. And if you disagree with him, you're wrong.
Oh, yeah. I'm over on Truth Social at John Burk. And, dude, I have... Oh, man, that's just a massive MAGA cultist crowd, as I knew it would be. Anybody with enough sense could have seen what Truth Social was instantaneously going to turn into, because liberals are not going to go to Truth Social, just like conservatives are not going to go to Tribal and Mastodon. It's probably not going to happen. So It's kind of funny how conservatives had the exodus, the great Israel or the great Egypt exit of these social media platforms onto Truth Social. Well, yeah, naturally. And I feel like Trump's also kind of an idiot not to go back to Twitter. You can do both at the same time. You got like an audience of 4 million loyalists on Truth Social. But as soon as Elon reinstates his account, he jumps up to like 80 million, something like that, just an insane number. So naturally, you're going to reach a lot of more people through the click of a button. You don't have to go through the mainstream media. You have direct access to the people. And that's why people, I feel, love Trump so much. But the level of blind tribalism that exists on the right is very disconcerting, or concerning rather. You look at it and it's like, yeah, you say anything negative about Trump, it's like, oh, I knew you were a controlled opposition. I knew you were a sellout. And you just have to look at that. And you made a good point. When you tie yourself, and I've preached this so many different times, I feel like I'm the political John the Baptist screaming out into the wilderness covered in like cloths and stuff. Like, people, listen to me. You don't have to. Like, you can support a guy and then not take on his identity. And the reason I feel like I'm very fluid on this topic is because that's what I did. I remember having debates and conversations and having to defend Trump when he did wrong. It's like, wait, why am I doing this? Because I will tell you, it's from a place of ego. Because if you really want to throw off your debate opponent, agree with him. When he thinks he's going to score on you, like, no, you're right. And you'll be like, well, yeah. So when they like go after Trump in these debates and they try and like use something about Trump, I'll agree. It's like, yeah, that's a good faith. I can agree with that 100%. And then they start to realize, okay, this guy is dangerous. I can't back him into a pro-Trump loyalist corner. I can't. So now I got to really debate topics, policies, and things such as like that with an open mind. And I feel like that's what could make conservatives 10 times more lethal if they took that approach. You don't have to tie your identity into Donald Trump. You don't have to tie your identity into Ron DeSantis. And by the way, we don't even have to pit DeSantis and Trump against each other right now because we don't know. So what's the point? These influencers are out there on the right crafting these narratives to get the clicks, to get the likes, to get the clout, to get on people's side. And I just find it just hilarious, man. I find it just so hilarious. And I debated this one woman on Truth Social for shits and giggles because I was literally on the toilet laughing about it. I'm being literal on that. And I made a post about Trump, something negative, and she talked about Trump is a pro-2A president. I was like, did you see what he tried doing to suppressors and body armor? You see what he did to bump stocks? And then she tried – that didn't happen. And I was like, oh. And this is where it hits towards like, oh, great. Do I have to educate this idiot? Because I really am not. Because what's the point? You've already got a bad faith. You're biased. I could literally pull Trump into this room and like, actually, yeah, John is correct. I don't like bump stocks. I banned them. I know it's a pro-Second Amendment. And they would still just like, oh, well, that's not Trump. That's a deep state fake. It's like, okay, you're just stupid. Go play in traffic at this point. But this woman, I did that. And she's like, well, bump stocks aren't a part of the Second Amendment. And I'm like, yes, they are. Yes, the hell they are. And at that point, it's like, oh, I'm done with you. There's no debating here. But this is the dangerous levels of Trump loyalists. You cannot reason with these people. They are no different than the diehard extreme alt-left. None. You will not change their minds. So what's the point? Like, that's why for me, like before, Twitter was just to troll liberals. Now Twitter's to try and grow an account because you actually have some good arguments over there, some good news. Truth Social, that's just a troll at this point. That's the troll. That's all the loyalists. It's fun.
Yeah. And, you know, I think that there's an irony in what you're saying. Because Trump, to me, wasn't an ideologue. And look, I'm not insulting Trump.
No,
Trump did something that
He's a populist.
Yeah, Trump did something I'll never accomplish. Right? He probably the greatest upset for president of all time. He had all of it. The institutions that were against him are insane, corrupt, incredibly powerful, etc. But Trump wasn't an ideologue. He was someone that I think has an ego, and he wanted to be liked. And I think that the Democrats initially made a mistake, because if they would have came out and been like, yeah, buddy, here, we're going to have all these celebrities hang out with you and give the thumbs up, he would have probably governed far more left wing. Right? But they didn't. They were like, well, he's Hitler. And so then he's just like, well, all right, screw you. Then I'm going to go against you.
You make a really good point. Democrats create their own enemies. You create your own enemies. Trump, you're right. Trump probably been more liberal in how he governed or how he led. But Democrats instantaneously, well, if you're not on my side, you're instantaneously the devil. You're instantly a Nazi. You probably could have had some common ground with him. You probably could have leveraged a lot. But being you attacked him nonstop in the media. Trump, look at Elon. Elon is Trump 2.0 in the sense that not maybe but 6 months ago, the entire world loved Elon. He dropped fucking Starlink in Ukraine because that's just a wonderful thing we should be getting involved in. And everybody's like, oh, hail Elon. He's giving internet to the poor people of Ukraine. Oh, Elon. Elon says, I'm going to buy Twitter. I want to make it fair. It's like, oh my God, Elon's a white supremacist. It's like, where have we seen this before?
Yep.
And that's why CNN has massive layoffs, because they are hemorrhaging, because nobody watches their shit show anymore. It's straight up garbage. And all we're really left with is Fox, because you got the Hannity with Trump's dick halfway up his mouth, or in his mouth. It's like,
and Lindsey Graham writing strongly worded letters,
Oh my God. Lindsey Graham is the biggest grifter there is. That guy was like so against Trump, and then Trump gets in power, just like Ted Cruz. Great debater, makes solid point. That dude's a coward. The president insulted your wife, bro.
Yeah.
He insulted. You should say, fair enough, Mr. President, but go fuck yourself. But nothing. But as soon as President Trump takes, and this is why this is not the fault of the politicians. This is the fault of the loyalists, because stupid people in large numbers are very dangerous. So when people like Ted Cruz, Glenn Beck, that grifter, when you see these people become united behind one figurehead, which is Trump, who is the face of the GOP, which I don't agree with, but that's what he is. Trump holds the power, and if you go against the king, you lose. Your career is over. So the Cruzes, the Becks, the Grahams, what did they do? They snapped to, and they became the biggest Trump proponents on social media and Congress, all of them. So that's why it's like, I got no respect for you. I got none.
And the irony is, like, as much as the left could have steered him in that direction, that was the advantage for me as a populist, to have a president like Trump. Like, take the Second Amendment. It was obvious on that issue. Trump's not ideologically very impressed with the Second Amendment, or someone who's studious of it. But all it took was his supporters like, whoa, what are you doing? And then all of a sudden he was like, oh, think of the power that you could have as a supporter, that you could actually influence this guy. But you know what it takes? Not kissing his ass 24/7. It takes 100%. When he does something that you disagree with, saying, no, that's wrong. And you may have actually had a president that said, oh, I didn't think of it that way. Maybe you're making a point. But instead of that, we had all these sycophants saying, how dare you criticize Trump for supporting lockdowns or bombing Syria or insert any stupid thing that he did. I was, and people like me or you were, ridiculed for calling him out on that. And so what was the end result? Well, he frog marched into a bunch of stupid decisions that ended up costing him the election, like lockdowns and all this other stupid stuff that he did.
Trump, like, even, man, you're going to watch that Trump is not going to talk about the vaccine much anymore, because even his handlers, like President Trump, if you want to instantaneously kill your career, keep talking about vaccines. Operation Warp Speed, that's on Trump. But I'm going to ask you a question to the chat and to you, Rob. Whose fault was Operation Warp Speed? Who should be blamed for that?
Well, I mean, it definitely, part of it's on Trump, right? But it's also on the people, right, that were looking for this like miracle cure.
The people went to the government screaming to save us, save us, save us. You cast aside freedom and for security, and you got your freedom taken, and you got no security. Basically, the public we live in the age of Amazon Prime. We need to have it now. Medicine does not work like that. What COVID showed to the entire world is you got a glimpse behind the medical curtain of how the meat was made, and you didn't like that. You didn't like that the normal clinical trial of any vaccine usually spans from 5 to 7 years, and that's cutting it short. So when people supposedly are dying by the government-induced panic that was spawned from the lab in Wuhan, which was confirmed to be true, that gain-of-function research Fauci had an involvement in, so America's partly to blame on that one, which should wake people up to the fact that this is not a left versus right. This is a people versus the government issue, but we'll never get to that level because they keep us fighting amongst each other. But when we go back and we look at all these things, it's the people's fault. It's the people's fault because we are so complacent. We are so expectant to where if I say now, I can get a package within 24 hours from over in China. It doesn't work that way. And what did we do? Well, hey, here comes Trump. Trump's like, I'll take care of you folks. I will do Operation Warp Speed. And, Trump kept Fauci around because Trump knew if he did not handle COVID right, he is toast. He is done. There is no running on a re-election when you fuck up COVID or anything of that magnitude. So what did he do? Well, if he would have fired Fauci, he'd have been crucified. Who's taking his place? Does Trump know? He doesn't know anything about science. So he's got to take Fauci's word. But the other thing that I pose to people is like, how the hell is Fauci? How's he still there? He fucked up the 80s. Like, this guy's a killer. He is a killer. And so I'm just sitting here watching all of this unravel and unfold. And I'm just sitting like, oh my God, we as a society, we're stupid. We are really stupid. It ain't just America. That's human beings in large numbers with morons amongst our group saying, I want it now. I don't want to die. Well, nobody does want to die. But just because you want it rushed does not make it effective. Hence, look at it. Like Joe Biden said, what, get your 20th booster and have a winter of illness and death again? Here we are, winter 3. Still nothing?
I saw a video I retweeted out, and it was just, I forget what the song is, like Ride of the Valkyries or something, or The Hall of the Mountain King, and it's playing that song, and it's just showing all these, it's like, vaccine 100% effective, New York Post, vaccine 99%, and it goes the whole way down to like 40% effective, like, as the time went on, and then it's like, get your 5th booster. Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right, though. What blew my mind was this. I was on blogs arguing with people. I understand the big government leftist socialist, right, that were for the lockdowns and everything, because that's in their nature. Basically, the fundamental disagreement that I have with those people is I believe that we have these inalienable rights, and under extreme circumstances, the government can temporarily infringe. For example, if there's a biological attack that hits New York City, the government probably has the right to quarantine for a small amount of time to make sure that that agent doesn't spread and kill millions of people.
Because it's provable. It's provable.
That's right. And COVID didn't anywhere come close to meeting that metric. But I'm saying the difference is I say that we have these rights, and it's up to the government to prove the extreme scenario when they need to temporarily infringe on them in a slight way. The socialists feel the opposite way. They feel you have to prove you deserve your right. You have to prove you deserve your First Amendment right to speech. You have to prove you deserve your Second Amendment right to own a gun. That's how they feel. So of course they were for lockdowns. But what blew my mind was the right-wingers. Even people I know that called themselves constitutional conservatives that were like, well, 15 days to slow the spread. And I'm telling them, like, you can't see how this is going to be exploited. If this disease that potentially could kill 2 million people, we were told, 2 million people, so it justified lockdowns. What do you think they're going to say next year with climate change? Because climate change has the ability not just to kill 2 million, it could kill the entire world. So now we need to lock you down for 3 years. 3 years to slow the climate, right? And that's what blew my mind. When you have no one to blame for yourself. And I was on the phone. I was writing letters to my state Congress people, to my federal Congress people. I couldn't get one person on record in March of 2020 to come out against these lockdowns and stuff here in Pennsylvania. And then once the focus groups and stuff told them, come June, August, all of a sudden they were like, oh yeah, lockdowns were a bad idea. Well, it's too late now. You devastated the economy. We'll be suffering these ramifications for 5 years, if not longer,
Oh yeah, 100% on that one. And it was just so funny that COVID brought all politicians to the center and then left, because even Republicans are like, yeah, they're not going to stand up against this COVID lockdown. And let's not even kid ourselves. When COVID first hit these shores, I was nervous. I mean, we didn't know. Everybody was kind of, what the fuck's COVID? And you start seeing what the images and video are coming from in China, people literally dropping dead in the street. And it was just nothing but fear mongering from the MSM across the world. So when you see this, fear is a wonderful motivator. It's an excellent motivator. And what do? They fear mongered better than anything I've ever seen before. I mean, if we wanted to fast forward back to 2001, 2002, 2003, when Bush propaganda for the war in Iraq was at its peak, this trumped that. My God, we could have had Toby Keith out here strumming his freaking guitar, put a boot in my America, blah, blah, blah. I was like, this beat even that. And for any Republican to go against that, that was career suicide.
Yeah.
So what every single one of them did is over time, it's like, oh, the slow spread's not working. And the lockdown. It's like, but you were pro-lockdown from the get-go. Wayman here, bud. Like, Wayman. So you're really only a constitutionalist when it suits you. And the extreme measure wasn't really proven. It was never proven. It was just images. It was anecdotal evidence. And everybody's like, trust the science. And come to find out, these scientists are the same ones that say transgenderism is not gender dysphoria, that you can change your gender. So we don't have scientists. We have political activists with PhDs and masters. That's all we've got. So when anybody like Destiny or anybody like that covers like, oh, this side's like, I don't believe you. Like, dude, it's been compromised. The integrity of academia and the institutions have been compromised to such an extreme level. I don't trust any of them. So what does that leave the common American to do? Stop trusting the government and make informed decisions on your own, because that's initially what our forefathers wanted. The government should have never been this big. It should have been so small, and communities handle it. Communities deal with it. States handle it, because that, at its purest form, is where true democracy exists. Not at the federal level. The federal level doesn't know dick all of what's going on. States, cities, towns, counties, they do. They do. Let them handle it.
Well, when it comes to vaccine mandates and everything, you could. I know I can't prove this, but I'll tell you, I've had private conversations and debate offers with people. There is no prominent left-wing streamer that wants to debate me on COVID vaccine mandates, because the few that have stepped in have left. Like, there was a guy, Ruminate, that's a streamer that came in. He halfway through the stream was like, I have to concede that you're crushing me. I'm not informed enough. There were other people that were like, I have to look into this. Because what you found was that they all pushed for people that had previous infections still being forced to get the vaccine or being forced to be tested every week. And all of the science, just from the CDC, if you looked at the CDC numbers alone from their paper they put out in January of 2022, it was staggering how much more protected the people with natural immunity were than the people that were vaccinated. And so the idea that you were forcing them to do things against their will and admitting that you were punishing them is inhuman. And they can't defend it. They know they can't. So they're just like, wave the hand like, well, it was just an oversight. No, it's not.
Bullshit.
It's tyranny.
That was a very important oversight, yeah.
Yeah, and they know what they were doing. So it is funny. You're absolutely right. They don't want to debate that,
Well, that's why I feel like, and I'm not trying to be facetious with this, or, my God, at best, overreacting. I do feel we should have a Nuremberg 2.0. I genuinely do. There should be trials, and after those trials, there should be jail time. How many lives were destroyed and ruined? You're right. The economy, it's going to take a long time for it to recover. And it certainly doesn't help that when the lockdowns are slowly starting to end and business is beginning to pick up, we get a president, and I still remember Bastiat. I still remember that debate. Bastiat, to this day, I'm still waiting my apology, buddy. When he sits there, says, when we talk about Biden having dementia, oh, John, are you a doctor? Bastiat. I'm not a mechanic, but I know when my car is not working right. I know when a president is staggering around, he can't put two coherent words, much less sentences together. The evidence is there. You're just ignoring it, which showcases people like Bastiat also have bad faith arguments and a bias that is projected into their arguments. My God, you could have looked at Joe Biden and said, this dude is probably shitting his pants every night. And you want to put this guy in charge of the free world with his finger on the button? You want to put this guy up against the likes of Putin and Kim Jong-un? Are you serious right now with what's going on in the Middle East? This is the dude. And what happened? What happened? You got Putin pushing into Ukraine. You think Putin would have done that under Trump? No. Trump told Putin to his face, we bombed Moscow. And Trump would have done it. Trump's the only dude that brought Kim Jong-un to the dinner table and fed him his balls. Trump would make an amazing wartime president.
Yeah,
actually he's not, but he kind of was. So when people, they talk about these things, I'm really at a loss. Because that's all I can say on that. But
I think you touched on
there need to be
trials. You touched on something that I think is amazing. It's hard to put into words. So I'll see if you could riff on this. As much as I despise sort of socialist or authoritarians, I could interact with them. I can, and I could think. I don't automatically think they're bad faith. I think that they are misguided or they're misinformed or we have a disagreement, but that's fine. I can interact with them. But once people start making arguments like, oh, I don't see any evidence that Joe Biden's, doesn't have all of his faculties there. Right. Things like that, like arguments that come out, oh, it's mostly peaceful. What are you talking about? What violence? What are you talking? Those are the people that I'm like, I don't even have the time of day, because these aren't questions of opinion where it's like, well, we could disagree on Medicare for all, or we could disagree on if vaccines are good or not. This is just something that's blatantly in your face, and they're asking you to ignore reality. Those are the people that will be calling your neighbors to get you sent to the gulag 10 years from now when there's thought crimes, right? Because they will believe anything. They are willing to deny the reality. They're the people that will want you locked up for saying there are biological differences between men and women. And I don't know how we could associate with people like that when they're that blatantly, bad faith.
Yeah, you can't. It's like trying to argue with somebody in quicksand, or trying to build a house in quicksand. You're not going to make a point. It's not going to stick around. Another sign of this is like peeling off to debaters and stuff, is humility. You talked about the one thing I will not do on my podcast or anything like that. I don't make political predictions with a guarantee. I don't do that. And when people say, what do you think the seating is going to be in the House versus Senate? I don't know. I don't know. After seeing what happened in 2016 with Trump Hillary, there's no telling. There was after seeing what happened with the lack of a red wave, there's no telling. Anyone, and that's why these political pundits, they make a living doing that. And I feel like it's a stupid way to go. Instead, you say, look, these are my predictions, but bro, what we've seen in the political spectrum, there is no telling. I think the saddest thing about it is that you want to educate these people. You want to open up their minds. So you have good intent. You have good faith there. But they're not meeting you halfway. And I also do that, or engage in any kind of debate with the ideas maybe I'm going to learn something here. Maybe I'm going to be corrected and see it from a different perspective that I haven't seen it from before. Austin Peterson changed my mind. I used to be against bump stocks because I didn't understand the depth and complexities of the Second Amendment. He broke it down for me, and it was like, oh, dude, I have been wrong. And if I'm wrong on that, what else am I wrong? So you start digging, you start educating, you start taking in information, and especially from opposing sides. I told Destiny before I had him on the show, I was like, dude, I watch a lot of your stuff, not with the intent of learning from you, but the intent to counter you, because I think you're wrong on a few things here. But if I had not watched his stuff, I would not be introduced to different perspectives and different opinions, which helped me formulate a more well-rounded idea, formulated based upon forced education of saying, I don't agree with that, but I'm going to go figure out why, because something seems off. Or maybe I'm wrong on this. So,
well, I say this all the time. People talk about privilege, white privilege or male privilege. Here's a privilege that I have. I have a privilege that I've grown up populist or conservative, because I went through debate in university, which was as left as it gets. Every single political opinion I have was challenged by brilliant people. Right? Sometimes not brilliant people. Sometimes I'm talking people that had perfect SAT scores. You're an idiot. You're wrong. You're bad. Yeah. And that was a privilege, because that helped me get better and shape my opinions. So many left-leaning people, from their time in kindergarten, through their time through secondary education, if they went through all of the TV shows they watch and all that, it's all the same bubble. And then when they run into someone, right, that's just like, well, you're just wrong. They don't know how to act. They're just like, to me, the best example of it is, even though I hate Sam Harris, you remember that clip from years ago where Ben Affleck's on Bill Maher's show and Sam Harris is sort of making the point, there's a problem with political Islam and terrorism. And Ben Affleck's just like, that's racist. And he looks like a total ass. That's because Ben Affleck's never had anyone his entire life tell him dude, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You're a decent actor. You wrote a good screenplay, but you don't know what you're talking about with geopolitics, dude. But all of his buddies are just like, I think that's something that's going on with Kanye as well. Everyone's just patting him on the back going, yeah, you're great, man. No, just keep going. Keep that money going.
I'll tell you right now what the Kanye thing is, and I figured this out. It's not hard to figure out. I'm kind of I put faith in people, and I used to really love Milo Yiannopoulos, and now I have no respect for that grifter. Yeah. This was a hit piece on Trump. All this was, and it wasn't from Kanye. It was from Fuentes, and I think ultimately the orchestrator was Milo. I think it was. Milo had talked about that he had put it all out there for Trump. He blames Trump for his fall from grace, his fall from glory. Milo was showing off all of his money. He was out there bling blinging and shit like that. He lost humility, which I don't think he ever really had, but that also is what made Milo great. And I love that about him because I saw myself in him. I was like, that's the guy who says, I don't give a fuck about your feelings. And I like that, especially in the political world. But Milo fell from grace, blamed Trump, literally talked about it on a parlay. He's like, I will have my vengeance. I'm going to burn the GOP to the fucking ground. And so what did he do? Milo saw an opportunity. Milo started interning for Marjorie Taylor Greene. Marjorie Taylor Greene's the same one that talked about Jewish space lasers. I saw the tweets. I saw the Facebook post. These are real. This was real. Marjorie Taylor Greene, who I do commend and respect her willingness to fight and go to the mat with these Democrats. I do respect that. I will never take that from her. But she's not our brightest. Marjorie Taylor Greene is the soccer mom with the pixie haircut named Karen that you just don't fuck with. But when it comes to like intellect, I'm not going to Marjorie Taylor Greene. So when I see Milo interning for her, I'm like, dude, what? You're smarter than her. What are you doing? What are you up to? And then Milo starts throwing in with the likes of Kanye and starts talking about Kanye 2024. We all know Kanye is an idiot. I called the grift from Charlie Kirk and Candace Owens before it even happened. They were riding Kanye's coattails, and I was like, dude, Ben Shapiro was right when he talked about you live by the Kanye, you die by the Kanye. Yeah. And I said years ago, when Turning Point really started grifting hard, I was like, you ride that Kanye rocket, you better ride it until it explodes, because that's what's going to happen. And what is Candace Owens doing now? She's not saying a fucking word about it. She ain't going to go near it, because basically she wrote him, not literally, figuratively. Right. What's happening now? That monster that you thought was on your side now it's about to bite you. So, yeah.
And that's the problem with these cults of personalities. Like, my take on Kanye was, always like, okay, he says some things that I think are truthful that I could see where he's coming from. But by no means am I sitting here like he's a celebrity. That's who he is. He has more influence because he's a celebrity. That doesn't mean he has more knowledge. Ricky Gervais, when he was at the Golden Globes, it was just like, you people went to school less than Greta Thunberg. You're not in a position to lecture anyone. That's the truth. That doesn't mean that entertainers can't have an opinion. I'm not saying that. Yeah. But the idea that like, it's, oh, did you hear what, and even it could be conservatives. Like, did you hear what Tim Allen said? Did you hear what James Wood said? Okay, but that doesn't mean that they have. Oh, I do too, but it doesn't. James Wood. It's not that he's more intelligent. He could reach more people, right? And he might be intelligent, but it's not because he's an actor. It's not because he has this big platform. Ted Nugent. That's another one. I think Nugent's a funny guy, but it's like, am I going to do Nugent for president? Like, no, it's not good. Like, it's a joke. Like it's stupid. But so if you are down for it, I asked the audience if they'd like to submit some questions. So audience, go ahead. We got a half hour left with John Burk. If you have any questions, I saw the first question. I forgot who asked it. They wanted to know what your opinion on the Ukraine war is.
Ukraine war is nothing but a money laundering operation. The Ukraine war was facilitated back in 2014 with the coup that happened, and the American CIA got involved, and they installed a pro-Western government. It was already a pro-Russian government. We had no business getting involved. I am not an isolationist, because I do believe there are some conflicts we do have to have a presence in to maintain a global military standoff, if you will. But Ukraine ain't it. Ukraine is full of corruption. And nobody really knew about Ukraine until the war in Ukraine actually kicked off. Then it's kind of like the war in Iraq. Nobody knew where the fuck it was. It was like Iraq. I was like, where is that? Ukraine, same thing. And when you start doing the digging and you start doing the research before Google really covered it up, you start to understand. There were two lectures that I listened to from back in 2015 by two professors. And I forget which colleges they were at, but they were talking about Ukraine and how the corruption and all these things, and how the EU has facilitated a lot of these little skirmishes, like Georgia back in 2008 flexed, thought they had EU backing, and Russia stomped a hole in their ass. And that was under the undertaking of the EU. So the EU and NATO, I don't like. I think that the war in Ukraine, if they want to stop the spread of Russia, also we know that Ukraine is not a NATO country. So with Russia getting involved with Ukraine, sorry, the EU and NATO have nothing to do with that. It just is what it is. You want to back them, but not with NATO support. These NATO, we're like the tip of the spear. America contributes so much more in NATO. This is like a relationship where we're getting beat. So then why do we need NATO? If we're a superpower, if we don't need a lot of these other countries because we're already doing the heavy lifting, why do we need NATO? Get out of NATO. NATO is worthless. Or we withdraw that much support to where it's like, look, if England's contributing this much, these people, then this is all we're given. That I'm cool with. Anything outside of that, no. Why is America playing the babysitter to the world? So anyway, number one, Putin ain't going past Ukraine. He ain't taking Poland. Right, and the reason, and I'll tell you the reason why. And people don't seem to get this, especially the likes of Dan Crenshaw, which I figured he would most of all, because I've had him on the show, and his debate, I don't get how that guy thinks sometimes. But when I first joined back in 2001 in the Army Infantry, all we trained for, Rob, was taking on the Big Red Bear. Our armor, our infantry, everything was ground war tactics to take on the Russian army. We were taught, we were trained under this ideology that these are the baddest motherfuckers on the world. It ain't China, it's Russia, because those troops are some mean sons of bitches. Well, the reason I know that Poland ain't going to push past, Russia isn't going to push past Ukraine, the fact that Russia got their asses beat by the likes of Ukraine, even with NATO interventionism to a degree, bro, you couldn't even take, I thought Ukraine was going to be a 48-hour operation. And here you see Kiev, boom, nothing. And it's like, wait a minute. The Big Red Bear doesn't have any claws. These dudes are operating at a T-55, T-72 burned out Soviet tanks. These guys don't know what they're doing. You're conscripting troops. You've dedicated of your 800,000 force, like what is it, 400,000 to 600,000, and you still couldn't take it? Then you want to take on the likes of Poland? You'd fucking get spanked. So I think Russia was just taking back what they felt was rightfully theirs, Donbass and the rest of them, because the EU got involved. And, I love all these Ukrainian flags, these Twitter bios. It's like, oh, Slave Ukraine. Fuck Ukraine. Fuck Ukraine. It's political corruption. So we're introduced to this idea that when people start posing the question, who do you support in this war? Here's my answer. Fucking none of them. None of them. Fuck the EU, fuck NATO, fuck Ukraine, fuck Russia, and fuck the Obama administration. Once again proving this should not be a Ukraine versus Russia versus U.S. thing. It should be a people versus a global cabal of a global government of these big rich motherfuckers facilitating these things. And who are the ones that are dying? It's the lower class. It's the middle class. It's the poor. The elites, they're protected. And this is the thing that just blows me away. And we sit here, and I understand it takes a little deep thinking, but fuck me running. In this age of Google and YouTube, you would think we'd have this figured out by now. The playbook is right there in front of us, and yet we still keep watching these global leaders running the same button hook, and we keep fucking falling for it because we're so stupid, and we kind of bring it on ourselves at this point. So when it comes to Ukraine, fuck Ukraine. Don't give a shit if Russia goes in and takes it over. Have at it. I just don't want to keep sending billions of dollars to this Zelensky, where, by the way, it's already been proven there's no oversight of this military equipment. These Javelin systems we sent them are already on the black markets being sold. This shit is insane. There's no oversight. And the thing that I respect most about Rand Paul, he's saying it like it is. He's like, where the fuck is this money going? It's like, we're giving you this money in good faith. By the way, you're one of the most corrupt countries in the fucking world. What sense does that make?
It's a good excuse 20 years from now to go back. Like when we armed the Mujahideen in Afghanistan, and then we had to go to Afghanistan for 20 years because it turns out that arming Osama bin Laden and his cohorts was a really bad idea. We learned 20 years. And for people that I could talk to you for hours just on Ukraine. I'll just say this real quick, like just one more spin on this. It is difficult to understand exactly what's happening on the ground there because both sides are going to have propaganda, but notice how the narrative that we get here from sort of our administration, our establishment, it contradicts itself. And so they'll be like, I talk to these lefties that'll say this. They'll be like, Russia doesn't have a prayer. Their ass is already kicked. It's all over but the crying. Give it 6 months or so and it's done. It's done. And you're like, oh, sweet. Then I guess we can stop those blank checks, right? Well, no, we can't do that. If we don't fight them over there, we'll have to fight them here. And if we don't continue to send billions of dollars that ends up going to kickbacks to politicians in this country and Zelensky and his cohort, well, then they'll go right through Poland and right through Europe. It's like you can't have it both ways. If you're right that Russia's getting their ass kicked, then we could stop sending the billions of dollars. It would be different if we lived in a country of abundance where the economy is doing fantastic and it's like, well, we got money to blow. We don't. We have homeless veterans. We have people struggling mightily due to inflation and a recession. And we're slapping those people in the face by telling them once more, just like with COVID, it's the poor and working class that need to sacrifice more in this country.
It's the middle class.
Fuck all that. I'm tired of it. Right. I'm so tired of that. And By the way, you said about NATO. Here's another contradiction of that I'd like to get your take on this. We're told we have to support NATO, and when Trump criticized NATO for not the other countries not spending enough, that you can't do that. The left and the right came together to say you can't criticize NATO. Well, we're in Syria right now. The reason that we were told all through Trump's administration that we had to remain in Syria was because our NATO ally, Turkey, where we station nuclear weapons, are genocidal maniacs that would murder the Kurds, who are our allies in Syria if we leave. So we're in a military alliance with people that the very people saying we have to be in that alliance and have given them nuclear weapons, it meant they're genocidal maniacs that are just waiting for us to turn the other cheek so that they can murder our allies in Syria. It's just insane. You don't have to be a genius to realize the same people that lied to us about Iraq, that lied to us about Afghanistan, that lied to us about Libya, they've never been punished, they're still in charge, and they're running the same fucking grift over and over again. It's that simple.
When have the power ever relinquished power? They don't. These career politicians, they can run on this idea because the reason I bring that up is that's the fix to your problem right there. That's the solution. It's got to be term limits. It's got to be no more career politicians. That needs to go away. But when do the powerful relinquish power? So all these people talking about running on this platform of term limits, you ain't never gonna get the votes for that, buddy. You ain't never gonna get the votes. Honestly, dude, the only way this fixes itself is if we have a revolution, if it's overthrown. And even with that being said, 100, 200, 300 years, the human idea of greed and corruption comes right back, and we're in the same situation. Hence why I don't think there's any form of government that actually works. There's
that's
none.
true. They'll all fail.
It's a matter of which one has the less shit in it, quite honestly.
Well, that's why we should have limited government. And you already gave the answer, right? Like the whole first part of this interview, you talked about local government and how important that is. It is more important. And more importantly, you talked about self-improvement. I was talking to a guy, Casimir, the other day, and he was talking about someone he listens to who's sort of black-pilled and says, we have no hope. His solution is radical self-improvement. That's like, okay, you can't rely on the government and it might do bad things to you, but there are a bunch of things you could do to improve your life. You could get in physical shape. You could become mentally stronger, reading more, researching more, developing new skills. So yeah, I mean, I don't get like, here's the story. Here's the ending, regardless if you're religious or not. 1,000 years from now, no one's going to remember any of us, So Can you look at yourself in the mirror? Did you know you were an authentic person? That's why you were talking about grifters on the right. That's what makes no sense to me, and especially on the left, but it's true on the right too. I'm not going to sacrifice my integrity because someone gets elected that I don't like, or someone gets elected that I feel I have to defend. At the end of the day, when I'm on my deathbed, at least I'll know, right or wrong, I was who I was. I was authentic. I didn't say, well, I got to bullshit people and grift and lie because, I feel that's the way to success in the short term. That will always bite you in the ass in the end.
Well, that's because there's two types of people, Rob. There's leaders and there's followers, and the followers don't have any independent critical thinking skills, and the leaders do. So you make a good point. At the end of the day, I am who I am. I pose the question to these people. It's like, do you think Trump gives a fuck who you are? You think Trump's going to give a shit when you die? No. But instead, what they're going to do to defend it and counter that, because I've had that conversation in my head, is, well, I did it for a greater cause. Therefore, you're a follower. Therefore, you can't think for yourself. You're a sheep. You do have to be led. And you're going to have unending loyalty, blind faith loyalty to a leader. And Trump, man, he checks that box great. Trump checks that box great. Even, I'm not even going to lie. I see Trump come out there, and I see a man of power. I see a man that's united the right. That dude, he's got it. Whatever the fuck it is, he's got leadership. I'd follow him in combat, but I tell you this right now, I'm smart enough to know, like, when Trump goes wrong, I go the opposite way. And that's what leaders should do. We need more leaders. We need less. We don't need as many followers. We need more leaders. We need more actual leaders. Not the Benny Johnson. These guys are followers, man. They have these large followings, these meme pages. These are not leaders. These are followers. Because they are not going to be the ones to call out Trump when he says is wrong. They're going to go into the idea of we need to go after the neocons and stuff like that. And the neocons or the rhinos are going to be anybody the swamp GOP identifies as. So it's kind of funny that they're playing into the same swamp they claim to fight against. They're just as bad. They're no different, and they're grifters, but they're saying things that align more closely with true conservatism. And I find it just absolutely hilarious to watch this. And I'm just like, yeah, again, it goes back to the original point. You got followers, and followers need leaders, and leaders need followers.
Yeah. Someone asked, I lost who said it, but someone asked, do you think Putin could use some Delta 8?
Absolutely. Putin, oh my God. That guy's got to be so pissed off right now. And to go back to that point, man, we ain't fighting Russia. If that kicks off, we're fighting Russia, a proxy war with China.
Right.
People don't get that. This isn't us. And that's why I'm like, I'm not a Putin apologist, and I'm certainly not afraid of China. But I will say this. This is why when those missiles fell in Poland and they looked at as if they thought it was Russia, it's like, that's it. That's the beginning. Maybe 6 months, maybe a year. That's the beginning of World War III. That right there. I mean, we got it for much less. Archduke Ferdinand, and assassinated by a Serb. World War I, right on its heels. All it takes, that's what people don't get. It takes one small action to trigger a much larger chain reaction, and the world gets pulled in, and common sense goes out the fucking window, and propaganda takes over. And like Pluto says, the first casualty of war is truth, and the truth will get buried. And maybe generations from now we'll look back and say, oh, that's what really happened. Well, why didn't they wake up? Beats the shit out of me, man, because I lived through it. It's like, I have no idea. So, yeah, that the idea of what's going on with all of this, like, yeah, to go back, let me give an actual finite answer. I don't support the war in Ukraine. I don't want American involvement. None.
Yeah, totally agree. Someone asked, what do you think of the FTX scandal? I don't know if you've followed that at all.
Yeah, I watched it. This guy should be in jail. Outside of that, look, I'm sorry. Crypto has not been around long enough for me to really trust it. I will put this in the best layman's terms that I can. I know dick all about crypto. I know crypto is another version of Wall Street, another version of stock investments, and I do invest in stocks here and there. But when you have something that you literally can mine for crypto, maybe it's because I just don't understand. I'll admit that, but that just means I'm not going to trust it, and I'm certainly not going to throw money at it. Just not. I'm not saying not to. I got a buddy that made a lot of money doing it, but he also lucked out. So I think that FTX scandal, it's like, dude, you had a 50-50 shot and it went south. That's all there is to it. But yeah, that guy apparently was accused of fraud, so he should go to jail.
I mean, I think the lesson is, I'm with you. I'm not going to claim to understand these things. To me, the simple lesson is, if you plan to be some sort of fraudster that's going to steal billions of dollars, just make sure you're lining the pockets of politicians. That'll be a good way to, avoid any criminal sins. There's a I could be wrong. I don't understand the ins and outs of this situation or crypto, but it sounds to me that, like, basically he did what sort of our Federal Reserve did, which was they were claiming to have assets they didn't have, and then some other guy called him out and was like, it's not there. And so when people tried to had a run on it, the money wasn't there. There's a documentary that I recommend everyone watch that kind of makes this point tangentially in a hilarious way. 30 for 30 documentaries on ESPN, sports documentary. There's this story from like back in the 80s or the 90s when the New York Islanders were going to move out of the area they were in. And so this local investor came in and bought the Islanders, right? And it turns out this dude was just a regular guy who was bullshitting everyone that he had all this money. He even signed the check for like $10 million and left out like 6 zeros and then claimed it was an accident. And his plan was he was selling the naming rights to the stadium. So ironically, by mere fact that he would have been the owner, he would have had the money to pay for the team by selling the naming right. It's that sort of like criminal. Now that's like a hilarious. He got caught at the last minute because he was like basically operating out of a strip club and shit. It's hilarious. It's a hilarious story. But he was just some fan that's like, I don't want the Islanders to leave, But it's that sort of idea where, our fiat currency system's a joke too, just the massive money printing. And, it illustrates how fragile it is. This guy's going to probably get away with it because he's connected to Democrats. But someone like Madoff or other people running Ponzi schemes, it's like, you'll go down. But in all actuality, you're not doing much different than what the Federal Reserve's doing. Just printing money, pretending that it's
Isn't that kind of funny? Isn't that kind of funny? It's like, you don't get to steal. It's a crime if you steal like the federal government does. It's a crime if you do it. It's not if we do it. It's literally copycatting what they do, and it's mind-boggling to me. I feel like there's a good probably Milton Friedman quote in there somewhere. I can't think it off the top of my head, but I can imagine him laughing in his grandfatherly way, talking about how the federal government, they stealing from us, bro. They stealing from us.
How about Thomas Sowell still going strong, man? Like, you'll still see him putting tweets out. I mean, man, I don't know how old he is, but he still looks good,
He's up
man.
there.
And when you hear him talk, he's still smarter than I am by a long shot.
I
So,
feel
I don't
like,
know.
I feel like we're living in a very modern age to where it'd be like sitting at the feet of Socrates, but instead we are sitting at the feet of the Thomas Sowells doing these live tweets. And I feel like Thomas Sowell is very underappreciated. He's very underappreciated. He should be way more prominent in American politics, but unfortunately he is not, just like Milton Friedman wasn't. I feel like there should be way more attention paid to the lectures they gave, the points they made. There's a lot of great learning and just kernels of information. But yeah, we should definitely value Thomas Sowell a lot more than we do.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the things that both him and Milton Friedman, I think he was a student of Milton Friedman, both of them that did amazingly was, it is a unique talent to possess that sort of knowledge and intellect on a subject, but be able to articulate it to a layman like me. That's because you talk to a lot of people that are, you could tell, or I've done it at least in the debate circuit. I would talk to people that was like, I would struggle to listen, be like, what are they trying to tell me? You'd be talking about postmodernism or, reading these heavy books by Michel Foucault or Heidegger. And it's like, what the hell are they saying? But when you can have someone break down a mastery of a subject to you, and I think that that's where Thomas Sowell's strength really is. When you listen to him just explain, and the other thing that he's fighting against is, you can't fault a lot of left-leaning people for having a big heart, right? Like, I don't want homelessness either. I don't want people to suffer. If it was up to me, everyone would be happily married with kids and a great job and, have a great life and they wouldn't get sick. And, but that's not reality. And the problem is when you go through the motions with that utopia in your head, bad shit happens. So you end up, one of the things I wanted to ask you about was, because I'd be interested in getting your take. We see places like San Francisco and LA that had these generous homeless solutions, including giving homes to homeless people. And it actually caused not only more homelessness, but more death and destruction. Like, do you see that as sort of an overarching problem with the left, where by thinking with just your heart and ignoring things that are realities and root causes, that you actually make the situation worse?
No, 100%. You're enabling behavior. I mean, you said it earlier, and I don't think you realize we're talking about veteran homelessness. Yeah, that's a very easy thing to say, but why is nobody asking the questions of why are they homeless? Because nobody wants the accountability and to remove the emotion from it and say, look, dude, because I got addicted to heroin to deal with my PTSD. Why didn't you use alternative, healthier methods? You knew what heroin does. You can't tell me you didn't. You still made that choice. Therefore, you've got to suffer the repercussions of your actions, because by you being a veteran does not exempt you to receive the criticisms that a civilian would receive by you mirroring their actions. You just so happen to have the veteran status that baffles me. And so that is rooted in emotion. And therefore, when, like you say, to combat the homeless population, we're just going to give you a house. Well, are we asking the questions, why are they homeless to begin with? Now, a lot of it is due to mental disorders, mental disabilities. So you giving them a house, well, how are they going to keep the electricity turned on? How are they going to pay the utilities? Like, there are things that we should be asking. So it's the basic idea of whether it be federal or state government, to solve a problem, one simply has to just throw taxpayer money at it. No, that does not fix the problem. We have to go deeper. And in order to go deeper, that requires us to have some very difficult conversations. And that involves race, sexuality, that whole shebang, stereotypes, everything. And I feel like you said before, because how the left thinks and they think with their hearts, you can't have those conversations. Case in point, you cannot criticize any Jewish person or you're automatically classified as an anti-Semite, and that is not true.
Right. And I think another situation like that's education. And I know when you used to do drunken debates, the panel, like we had sort of discussions on this, and the easy solution is always, well, more money. We pay the teachers more money. These inner city schools need more money. Well, when you look at the details, more federal tax dollars per student goes to inner city schools than actually goes to suburban or rural schools. Yet the problem continues to be exacerbated, because maybe just throwing money at the problem without solving the root cause is just exacerbating the issue.
We have to address there is a cultural problem in the home. You can throw more money at this. Why are the teachers having to deal with troubled students? Why is there violence? Let's talk about Black inner city schools. The level of education and poverty is astounding. And we can have that conversation about why Black culture in America is destroying itself. But we need to have a much deeper conversation of how can we lift the Black poverty level up out of the economic pit they've dug themselves at, well, not necessarily dug, that they had no access to generational or inheritance wealth. Therefore, yes, they were at a massive disadvantage. Yes, I would say they probably, if not the most discriminated against class in the history of America. I will give them that. But at the same token, with the creation of affirmative action, and now, I mean, let's not even kid ourselves. Black privilege, not even that, minority privilege, is very alive and well. You cannot tell me that black privilege does not exist. If white privilege exists, then black privilege most certainly does exist, which at its core is just basic racism. It's a favoritism of a race, one superior than the other. But if I can sit there and check on a college application, I'm of a certain minority race and I have a much higher rate of getting in based upon the color of my skin and not what my performance actually is, not what my GPA is. Hence, Elizabeth Warren and why she hasn't been crucified. I'm still curious on that one. That, again, is an actual disservice to a group of people. The marginalized voices, all you've done is enable them to remain stupid. And that's not what you want. And that's why all these things, we have to have these very difficult conversations that the left cannot in good faith have. Because I feel if they could, we could come to this meeting ground, this consensus, like, okay, you know what? This fixes the problem where we both compromise. Let's move forward. But no, all we have to do is just keep going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And we see no fucking progress being made whatsoever. Just more federal money thrown. And realistically, it's just a manipulation of black people by liberal Democrats to keep them poor, keep them on the government fiscal tit, keep them on the subsidy programs. Why? Because I mean, who the fuck would want to work, Rob? If I can get $3,000 to $5,000 with an increase of every kid that I pop out of my cooter, why the hell am I ever going back into the workforce? This is proved very easily by how many people manipulated the PPP loans, how many people did not want to go back to work, get off unemployment after COVID. It literally mirrored that. And people are living in absolute fucking denial because, again, it's all about their goddamn feelings.
Yeah, but a bunch of think tanks that are getting paid by the government say that it's all good. Source, please. Source, John, for that. Oh, never mind that you see help wanted signs in every town you go and they can't find employee. Oh, that's bullshit. All the sources say employment's full and blah, blah, blah. It's just, I'm so tired of arguing this shit. And, one of the things that I started to do, listen, don't feel left out, white people coming to a town near you. Just like John's saying, I see it in my little rural area, which is like 95% white. Young people don't want to work, right? Why work? I could sit at home and get money. So after a couple generations, it's going to look like the inner city looks. The crime might not be as high because there's not as many people. It's more people with more poverty leads to more aggression. But that doesn't mean it's a fine line too, because you also have to take personal accountability into effect. You can't just be like, well, I'm screwed because I grew up here, so I couldn't help that I'm a gangbanger. But I think you said that better than I could. It's so frustrating. One of the things I like to do when I talk to, if I'm talking to someone, a person of color that's, a Democrat, I say, the reason that the Democrats and the establishment wants you to say, I'm a victim, so I'm entitled to stuff, is because they're afraid of you. Because they're afraid that if you start to work hard and realize, okay, I got to take care of me and my own, you will outcompete them. They don't want that. They would rather you be their child than be their competitor because they're afraid. The thing
that prevents people of color from taking that step off of that ledge is the idea of fiscal failure. Yep. So why would I take the economic risk of pulling myself off the fiscal tit of the government to where I could potentially fail, but you probably are not going to fail? Why would they? So the Democrats, the federal government, have a very good little double hole on that one as far as they control the minority vote.
Yeah, I mean, think about it I know it's not an apples to apples comparison, but think about it like the overbearing mother. If you knew anyone growing up, like when you were a teenager and you were going out getting into shit, think of the friends you had whose parents wouldn't leave them out past 5 p.m. It's like, and their parents were like, but it'll keep them safe and I'll take care of them and I'll buy them a car and so they don't need to get a job. How'd their life end up? Yeah. That's right. And I know people like that are I'm 38. I know people that are my age that still live with their parents. And I'll talk to them, I'm friends with them and I'm like, dude, what are you going to do? You've never paid an electric bill your entire life. You're 38 years old. All of your money goes to concert tickets or video games. What are you going to do when you have to pay the mortgage, when you have to pay the rent? And they have no clue. And there's a whole generation of people. Yeah, there's a whole generation of people that, workers. I know a lot of truck drivers. They can't get young people. They can't get them. No. Everyone that works at this, hauling place I know, everyone's 55 or older. And it's like, what are they going to do 10 years from now? There's no crop of young people coming out. That's tough work. I don't want to be on the road, all those hours. Okay,
I think you're right. I know you're 100% right, man. I had talking about that fiscal risk that minorities have to take in getting off the government tit. There was a woman, I used to live downtown Dallas. I think we paid like $2,000 for a 1-bedroom apartment that was like 1,200 feet, if that. And that's the price you pay to live downtown in the shithole of Dallas, liberal controlled. And there was this black woman there who was they did a portion of the apartment complex was Section 8, which naturally you bring in the lower income, you're going to see an uptick in crime and stuff like that. It's just how it is economically. It's data proven time and time again. With lower economic class comes more poverty or equals more crime. This woman was Section 8. Her rent was just like $100 a month in a $2,000 apartment complex. She goes out and she gets a job. The apartment manager finds out, and what does she do? She's like, oh, we got to increase your rent. And the woman's like, why? She's like, well, you're bringing in extra income now. You got to pay rent. And what does the woman do? She quits her job. And the perfect classic example of why minorities stay broke in the lower economic bracket, because the government manipulates them and says, oh, you got more money. Well, here comes the tax collector in Nottingham just taking out the taxes.
Yep.
And you basically disenfranchise this person. They are never going to go out. They're never going to leave. And that's just the dumbest approach that I could ever see that be taken to something like that. And the other experience I had was I bought a house that was valued I bought it for $275. And it was a nice neighborhood, not like a closed gate, but it was a nice neighborhood. You could let your kids play outside at night. It was a nice neighborhood. And across the street, 2 houses that were on the market prior for $308,000, and one was the $295,000. Both of them were Section 8 houses. The owners had put them up for Section 8. This one family had about 6 kids. The other family had about 8, and both of them minority. And I'm sitting here asking myself, why do you get a $300,000 house? You have 8 kids that you cannot afford. You do not work. Does anybody else see a problem with this? And again, we have to go back to culture. We definitely have to look at the culture. My culture, and I feel culture in the South, especially in white communities, was you are not a man if you cannot provide for your family.
Yeah.
You have no right to call yourself a man. To sit there and take money from the government, you're a bitch. And you were taught, but that culture is dying, especially in minority communities, because it becomes a thing of the past of, well, number one, you've got fatherless homes, so you've got nobody teaching that type of culture. And secondly, again, you've got broken homes. You've got these kids that are raised on the streets in poverty levels, and the only thing they do know how to do is gangbang. So we can't really sit there and clutch our pearls when we wonder, is like, well, why are they not getting ads? At fault, it's Democrats. Democrats are the enablers of keeping the lower poverty level poor and on the government tit. And therefore, you're going to have more crime. Chicago, all these places, poor black crime, because Democrats keep them poor to keep them coming back voting. If Democrats lost the black vote and minority vote, they would be sunk. And that's a slim percentage of America, might I add. I shouldn't say fully slim, but you get where I'm going.
Yeah,
and that's the power of the mental plantation liberal Democrats have on minorities in this country.
Yeah, and the thing is, these are difficult conversations. And listen, there are racists, right? There are people that will want to use excuses to say this denigrates all black people. That's not what we're saying. But the problem is, when you say we can't have these conversations because some bad person could hijack it, the only person that you're harming is the people that are in those communities. The more we say, well, we can't talk. Every time you say, well, we can't talk about black homicide rates because that's racist. Well, who are the victims of those homicides? Black people. So what you're really saying is, sorry, mother who lost your 3 kids. We can't talk about your problem because we feel uncomfortable. I say, fuck all that. I'm not a racist, and I'll talk about this because I actually don't want to see communities in this country. I would be devastated if I grew up in a situation like that where it's like, violence like that's a part and parcel to everyday life. That's not what this country should be about. And I find it repugnant that we're not allowed to have a serious discussion about it because you get branded as racist. So I'm glad that you talk about these things.
You got that one dude in your chat, that moron who said, he said, Kanye is destroying all you Zionist cocks. Ha, 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 ha. Okay, bro. I love the fact that if we don't agree with Kanye, we automatically become classified as Zionists. When I'm not a Zionist, I'm actually a Christian. I don't believe in Zionism, but That's funny how people, again, that's another bad faith argument that's just based in projection.
Just tribalism.
Where has Kanye destroyed anything? Did you not listen to this interview that we did? Because I'll tell you this right now. Rob is an educated dude. He's a very intelligent man. And when Rob mirrors my own sentiment towards an interview that we watched, I was like, that was just retardation at its core.
Yeah.
And you're sitting there telling me that Kanye owned people. We didn't see the same interview then. Therefore, I must assume that you're projecting your true anti-Semitic views on other people, because that was not Kanye. Kanye did not defend shit. When you say, I love Nazis, you're stupid. And by the way, have you seen Kanye's most recent tweet? It's a swastika inside of a Jewish star. You are a fucking moron if you support that guy. What you were hoping for was a more Fuentes type of approach where you could try and slip through some anti-Semitism under the guise of, we're just defending ourselves because of white culture, blah, 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 blah. No, bro. Nick Fuentes is a theocrat, is what he is. He's a fucking white nationalist theocrat, and Kanye got played like a puppet, and it was done at the hands of Fuentes and Milo Yiannopoulos. So you're sitting there thinking that you scored points. No, you're just fucking stupid. That's probably at heart an anti-Semite.
He's probably a Fuentes, a groiper,
Yeah,
right? And
totally
it's like they're always so big-brained, right? Like here, and we mentioned this, I think, before we started recording this, but we were talking a little on the live stream before this. Yeah, sometimes it is true that our institutions brand everyone a racist that they want to disagree with or a bigot or whatever. That is true. That doesn't mean that there aren't actual racists or bigots, etc. You know, and there are these big brains that want to be like, oh, anything edgy must be right. The first interaction I had with Fuentes' crew was them just calling a woman of color fat, ugly, and the N-word over and over and over again, right? And then I started talking to them, and they're like, you're fat, and you're stupid, and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, that's all well and good. I don't care. What's your political movement again? What are your issues? And they can't really articulate that. And what I'm trying to tell them, I'm like, if you just want to be an edgelord, no problem, have at it. You just want to be an internet troll. But if you think that you're going to successfully help people run for office or have an agenda, you're not. People are going to run from you. And they think that they're so edgy because it's just like, we said the N-word. Kanye wore a gimp mask and said Hitler was good. That must be a big brain take. No, it was one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. That's what it was. And the fact that people think, you know, it's so aggravating that there are this group of people that are like, if it's edgy, it must be right. No. Sometimes it's just stupid, and that's what Kanye was today.
100%. And you know, I like you, I was like, maybe Kanye is waking something up. Like, I don't know. But I'm sorry, this is the same Kanye that back in 2005, 2006 got on live television after Katrina was like, Bush hates black people. And you're like, what the fuck?
Mike Myers' face.
Shut this idiot. Yeah, Mike Myers. Like, just shut this guy up. So,
it's good stuff.
Yeah, and that's why I said from the get-go, when Kanye opens his mouth, and Trump was dumb to invite Kanye into the White House. I remember watching that interview, and Kanye sitting there just going off being Kanye. It's like, Trump should be he should be flying on this plane, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh my God, somebody get the idiot out of the room. Get the fucking idiot out of the room. We don't need reality television star fucking ex-husbands coming in here just sullying up the political realm. And that's what he's done. So honestly, what's going to come of the Kanye field? This is going to die out. Fuentes is trying to get back into the limelight. He's trying to get more fame. He's a groiper. He's trying to grift a little bit. They're going to use Kanye. Kanye's eventually going to burn out because people are going to be tired of talking about it. And then Milo's extracted his revenge. He's gotten his pound of flesh from Trump in his mind. And this is going to move on. Why? Because we've got more important things to discuss. This is not important. This is culture war bullshit, quite honestly. It could lead to the discussion of Jewish nepotism, which should happen, but it's not. It's too late. It's not going to happen. We're not going to focus on the important things that we should have discussed in the spirit of equality. It's not going to happen. Kanye fucked that up because all it is them just making him dance because he's an idiot. He's a fucking idiot.
I totally agree. So we'll get you out of here on this. Aftershock, who is my producer who set this up, he wants to know what your ferret's name is.
That's Daisy. Daisy's my ferret. She's running buckshot around the house tonight. She's in the cage all day while I'm at work. Sleeps most of it. But yeah, her name is Daisy.
Well, I can't think. My wife knows. She's like, she was on my YouTube chat. She's like, is that a ferret? Does he have a ferret? I was like, yeah, I think so.
That's Daisy.
So I want to thank you again, John Burk, coming in last minute. I really appreciate it. Another reason to thank you is it gives me a little credence with my father-in-law, who owns a gun shop. He's a big fan of yours. So I think the first time that I ever talked about like streaming with him, I was like, yeah, I'm going to be on Drunken Debates with this guy, John Burk. He's like, John Burk, I watch him all the time. So I saw he poked in, so he might be watching now, but he's a big fan. But yeah, I love your channel. I can't wait to do the podcast. I might be able to call in tomorrow. I don't know if you have guests lined up, but we'll set something up.
Loved it. Yeah. We go live at 12 p.m. CST. I would love, because tomorrow we're going to be talking about the Kanye interview. I'm going to give the viewers a chance to call in, and because apparently there's a lot of dudes that want to wake me up to the dangers of Judaism and American and Zionism, and I'm keeping an open mind. I'm not going to shut it down automatically. But I think a lot of these people, it's rooted in basic anti-Semitism, quite honestly. There's a difference in an economic criticism of Israel and things such as that versus you're just projecting at this point. And that's where the slippery slope lies. Like this dude from not Canada. It's like, dude, come on, just admit it. You don't like Jewish people. Whatever.
Or it's just a straight up troll. But yeah, that's most likely what's going on. But yeah, I'll text you and let you know because there might be... I might be watching the little guy taking him to Christmas trees tomorrow, so we'll see what's going on.
No problem.
But yeah, I'll let you know, and I'll make sure I get that. The generous super chats again. Thank you, Nico Pluto, giving $400, half to me and half to John. So I'll make sure I get that to you. Can you tell everyone where to find your Rumble channel, where to find your podcast, and what times you're usually streaming? Yeah,
the podcast is just John Burk Podcast on Rumble. You can type it in, it'll pop up. I have three different channels. It's just John Burk Podcast. And we go live Monday through Friday, 12 p.m. CST, and normally cover the most current issues in the political current events world, geopolitical. A lot of fun. It's chill. It's more of a talk show. Certainly not as articulate as I am with Rob. It's more, I do it to entertain. But I have my partner Josh is on there. We go back and forth. And that's, again, 12 p.m. CST, Monday through Friday. And then you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at John Burk 1984. And that's normally, like, if you can probably contact me on Twitter.
And we'll have all those links below, so I'll be putting this video up whenever I get time here. But, ladies and gentlemen, John Burk, thank you again so much for your time, and I can't wait to talk to you soon.
Oh, absolutely. I look forward to having you on, bro. We're about to hit, we're hitting like 200, 300,000 downloads a month. So we're growing.
That's awesome.
I definitely want to get your voice out there because you got some really good insight to put, bro.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. So, all right, man, we'll talk to you soon. Thanks again.
Later, homie.
I will see you. Oh, I forgot to hit stop record at the, no, it's all right. Yeah, great guy. Really, really enjoy John. Yeah. You know, not to kiss his ass too much, but, you know, one of the things I like about John is exactly what I was saying about Thomas Sowell. Like, John, he does not put on airs that he's some intellectual. And I'm not going to name names, but there are people on the left and even some on the right that sometimes you interact with that are using $10 words all the time. And it's like, listen, I'm humble. I don't sit on here and say like, oh, you know, I'm a genius, blah, blah, blah. I think that, you know, I think I'm probably a reasonably intelligent guy, but I'm pretty humble. But I don't try to talk like that. I don't try to talk in a way that's, you know, makes it sound like I'm some professor or I'm some scholar. And that's why I really like talking to John. John reminds me of guys that I've known my whole life, you know, that on topics, just incredible intelligence, but they could talk to you just like you're a normal person. That's the type of people I enjoy interacting with, you know, and that's why I always appreciated talking with John, particularly one-on-one. I also enjoyed doing, when he did the Drunken Debates, I enjoyed doing that. Yeah, I mean, if you can't, you know, it's the same thing with debate, right? Like, for those that don't know, if you're new to following me, I used to do policy debate, you know, in college, and in policy debate, like, you talk a mile a minute. Like, let me find an article for you. You know, like I was looking up John Kirby earlier. So this is John Kirby. Kirby was commissioned in September 1986, having completed the office of Kansas Sort of Naval Support Program. He qualified to surface warfare, guided missiles, U.S. Aubrey Fitch, and designated to be blind officers of the PAO. The public officers of Kirby's the seaboard of the U.S. Ferris Holds the commander of the U.S. Second Fleet abroad, the control ship, and the wild shore of Kirby gives towards the instruction of the U.S. Navy, the Public Affairs and Naval Administration, the Blues Editor-in-Chief of the Navy's flagship magazine, all hands and staff of the Chief Naval Person, and Naval Officers, Europe Chief Naval Operations, Special Public Affairs, and Chief Joint Staff. She serves as Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense and Military Operations. Now it's like, wow, that's great. That helps in the game of debate. But what fucking good is that when 99% of the people in the world are like, I can't understand a word you just said, right? It's the same, not just talking at that sort of speed, but talking with a vocabulary that people can't understand. Yeah, my wife hates when I do that. I mean, someone gave $400 today, Court, so I thought that the least I could do is... I find that sort of like, oh, well, the pedagogy of the normalcy of, of impracticum. It's like, I think what you're meaning to say is like, the reason people do this in real life is, if I have to sit here and be like, okay, let me get my Merriam-Webster out here, and that's what I love about John. Just because, I did not see. My wife says, did I see the Antonio Brown happenings? I know I'm going to regret this, but what happened with Antonio Brown? Let me look it up. This is going to be a mistake. I know it. Ah, boy, Antonio Brown. For those that don't know, Antonio Brown was a wide receiver that played for the Steelers, and apparently he's just losing his mind. I didn't see. Maybe my wife will. Not as funny as I think it'd be. Oh, well. What happened? I don't know. Probably doing crap with Tom Brady, it looks like. But no, great interview with John Burk. I hope you all check out his channel. I will, what I'll do is you saw this live, obviously, but I'll put it up on YouTube Rumble. I recorded it as well. So I'll make sure that it gets put up with its own thumbnail without my ramblings before and afterwards, just the interview section with me and John. So look for that. The Casimir interview that I did is up now from 2 weeks ago, so you can check that out. And I'll be putting the debate I had with BPF up soon. So, I didn't call you anything not out of Canada. I don't know what... but I know this. You're an idiot if you think Kanye looked good today. You're an absolute idiot. That's what I know. Next Thursday, we'll have Sproticus. Sounds good. So, special thanks to Aftershock for putting this together. I do really appreciate that. He does a great job with this stuff. So, yeah. It's all thanks to him that I was able to get John Burk on here. Last minute, too. So, Antonio Brown's got a warrant out for his arrest, following domestic dispute charges. Jeez, oh, man. Yeah, who did worse, him or Kanye? Yeah, I agree with you, Hurricane. That's what I'm saying. The Kanye stuff, it's like... Pff. But let's raid someone, and then I'll get out of here. I'll go down and hang out with my wife and probably watch Cops or Under Arrest or something like that. Oh, how about BXBullet? Haven't rated her in a while. BX is, look, let me say something about BXBullet here real quick. I think BXBullet gets involved in a lot of drama. Sometimes she brings it on herself, but she's also had some really horrible, heinous stuff done to her, including people, attacking her daughter, which is incomprehensible. It's despicable. But she's doing tremendous work on outing child predators on YouTube and things like that. And, she doesn't get enough credit for it. So, I recommend giving her a follower. She's getting her channels removed all the time. Listen, going after actual... I'm not talking about someone that was like, well, I think this book should remain in school. Like, the one video she did, it was incredible. This guy is admitting, he's basically like in some cult, and he's admitting to having intercourse with people like under the age of 15. It's disgusting stuff. And this guy's got a huge YouTube channel, streaming every week. And BX is out there like, a lone wolf fighting this. So, check it out. We'll see what she's talking about this evening. But, I always like BX. I try not to wade into a lot of the drama stuff, but I think she's really good. And again, special thanks to Nico Pluto for donating $400. Absolutely incredible. I really appreciate it. So, all right, we will see you all. I should be on tomorrow night, barring anything crazy happening. So we'll see you all 9 p.m. tomorrow. And then maybe I'll be on John Burke's show tomorrow, though. It's looking sketchy as I remember that we have dinner or like lunch plans with Courtney's family. So I'll see what I could do, but I'll be on there shortly. So, all right. Thanks so much, everyone. Special thanks to Nico, Aftershock, John Burke, Achilles, and anyone else. If you donated on Twitch, unfortunately, I couldn't see during the thing, but thank you to everyone who donated. And thank you to all of you that support me and watch me. I really appreciate it all. Gizmo, I know you donated. Thank you to you as well. All right, everyone. Enjoy this raid at BXBullet. And as always, have a good one.
But that's where I get the most traction, which means that that's where I need the support when I'm trying to, like freaking raise awareness about something that's happening like this, right? Yo, what is up? Speaking of support, robnoerr in with the raid. What is up, raiders? Oh my God, we're trying to decompress. You're gonna have to go back and watch the VOD, Rob. You will not believe this fucking pedophile on YouTube. Like, it is at this point, I think that it would be weird if there wasn't a Netflix documentary about it. Like, this is gonna be big national news or something eventually. Like, it's so ridiculous. Like, this guy is so insane. Like, staring into his eyes, it's just like a void. Oh my God. I just gotta, and I'm sick. I'm super sick right now. So thank you, Raiders. We're gonna play some video games because, like, look, I'm getting splotchy. I'm getting splotchy from how mad we are. But like, this guy was, literally just admitting to raping kids, basically live on YouTube. It was insane. God help his family and all of his victims.